Welcome to Flesh and Pod, a flesh and blood podcast, breaking down weekly news and notes from the tournament scene, community drama, game strategy, and more. And now, here are your hosts, Darick and Logan.
Hello, and welcome to episode 185 of Flesh and Pod. My name is Logan. I'm your host. With me this week is not only Charmer, who we love. We love Charmer. But also our favorite recurring guest of all time by miles, the rules and policy manager for Flesh and Blood. And I would say top 0.01% of humanity, Josh Scott. Joshua, my friend, how are you doing?
I am doing great. Thank you for that lovely intro. I appreciate being a guest on this pod. It is a pleasure to chat with you and talk shit with you occasionally.
Occasionally,
wow,
right?
Almost every time we catch up, we talk some shit, right?
It's very, very important that we talk shit. At Charmer, I already know the answer to the question. Did you do anything in Flesh and Blood? So we're just going to move on.
I had a memoriam for new.
Did you light a pyre?
I have not lit a pyre. I have built a cairn in my backyard.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Did you ever get to play a game with the anime new from Japan that I got for you?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's actually it's sleeved up in the same box as the Marvel. So like, because I usually leave the full art up, and then if people are like, oh, they want text, I just put the anime one like underneath it. So
which is in Japanese.
Yeah, that's the joke. Now you're getting it. And then you go to the third one, which is the rainbow foil one from the events from forever ago. So it's like you go 1, 2. Like I know I could just have it like in a clear sleeve so I could just flip the Marvel, but I don't want to do that. Okay, that's not as funny. I need the Russian nesting dolls new.
You need the Matryoshka Russian dolls. Yeah,
I love that. Do you have text? Do you have English text?
The internet does, you fuck. Look it up yourself. Oh God, Jesus. Yeah, we'll get to talking about new here shortly. I did want to talk about a couple of things off the top. The first off was just some kudos to our good friend Stephen Cookus, DM Armada. He had a stream going a couple of nights ago for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, which, if you know anything about us and listen to the show for long enough, you know that specific charities and specifically children's charities mean a ton to us. And we try to do everything to support them. And Stephen went out there and did a 40-box opening with Parker, a.k.a. Breezy, and raised over $20,000 for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Stephen for that, and also a shout out to the community for stepping up and donating and pushing that number to the other number over and over and over again. It was really, really fun to watch and be a part of as I sat there and chat and talked shit to people. It was a good time, but I just wanted to go ahead and shout that out while we're here. And the other one is our esteemed friend, Tommy Fresh. For those of you that don't know, Fresh and Buds just hit their 200th episode. That's 200 episodes. Tommy has been on the same streak that we are. Tommy has never missed a week, to my knowledge.
Is it right?
I don't believe he has. So 200 episodes down, and so kudos to Tommy for the longevity and making that happen. He started before us and he's still here. And he is, we've both of our shows have outlasted shows that we never thought we would outlast. But he has been a consistent source of just joy in this community for so long. And I can't think of many people that are in the Flesh and Blood community that are more beloved by their audience and by the people that he has interacted with. Nobody says a bad word about Tommy. It just doesn't happen. So I know that you've been on a show, Josh. I know that I've been on a show. Charmer, I think, has been on a show.
No. In case you didn't know, every time that I'm supposed to be on his show, they run out of time. Yep. Which is why you've never heard a bad thing said about Tommy, because I say it all the time. It's just that he runs out of time.
He runs out of time. Sure.
Yeah.
Man, they should really make more time for you, Chandler, I think.
I know.
Sure. But off the top, I just wanted to make sure we got those two out there because those are two very special accomplishments by two fantastic humans that I have shared hotel rooms with. So that's I honestly floored by both of their achievements, and just wanted to make sure that if you're not clued in to either one of them, this is your warning. Go check out Fresh and Buds. Go check out DM Ramada's YouTube channel and help support. There will be more of that coming, I'm sure. So if you're not already clued into those things, you should be now. Moving on, we did have some news and notes from the weekend, and I am sorry to Charmer, but Calling Bologna happened, and it was won by Tommaso Vecito on new. And the fucked part is that it is currently June 15th, and I believe we are 3 weeks past the official release date of Part the Mistveil. So it's been just over a year, which means the multiplier went from 0.5 to 1, and 50 points plus 954 points equals 1,004 points. So new, we hardly knew you. I did that for you, Charmer. I did that for you. And the rest of this top 8 was 1 Gravy Bones, 2 Vincent, 2 Syndra, a Prism, a New, and then Azalea. So Charmer, how do you feel, buddy?
Sad. That's just about it.
It's the first assassin gone.
It's the first assassin gone. I still think that there's plenty of playable characters within the class, so I'm not like terribly sad. It's not necessarily the same feeling I had, say, when Chain left.
Sure.
I don't know why you're doing the air quotes, man.
Playable.
Mario, Slippy. I still think Uzuri is undervalued. Like
I'm just waiting for you to make the argument for Huntsman. Like, that's all.
No, listen, I will never make, because I like to play that class, I will never make the argument because I know that it's not there. But also, like, the objective, like, if I just stop being the assassin fanboy for a moment, I've said before, I think Huntsman could be competitive in the current meta if we did not have Verdance and Florian. So those are two popular heroes and really bad matchups because you're helping their game plan with the contracts. So
that's true.
You just speed them to their win condition faster, and you're already trying to play a fatigue deck. So like helping them overpower you faster is bad. So at some point in the future, because let's be honest, he's not going to LL before those two, depending on the state, he could be viable again. There was a legitimate period where I felt competitive on him post heavy hitters.
How was that 18 hours for you?
It was actually fantastic. I had a lot of fun playing it. But yes, I short answer is I feel like Assassin still has plenty of playable heroes. So while I will miss her, it's not a huge deal. And then as somebody who, you know, started the game, like I started with like Chain, but very much fell in love with Guardian. It is kind of nice that the Guardians can
Guardians unbanned.
Yeah, they can feel like they can play the game again.
Yeah, I know quite a few Victor players were celebrating the weekend, being able to pull back. It was a post on Blue Sky, and it was like, welcome back, King. And it was a picture of Macho Grande Blue. So.
That was Dagan White, I'm pretty sure.
No, Dagan posted he's free.
He's free. Right, that's right. Yeah. Because all of a sudden Terra Sunder and Macho Grande and all these other things are just back on the menu, can start playing blues again. It's very funny to be honest, but
it's going to be interesting though. Like I think I think it will probably be one of the most impactful LLs for in a metagame in recent memory, just because it unlocks so many class cards or cards from a certain archetype, which is going to go ahead and affect the rest of the meta because of this influx of new type of gameplay. And I think it's super, super exciting to sort of like see that go. Like Nu's been around for long enough to, win a few things here and there to influence the meta game, to be part of the community. And now that she sort of had her run, it's cool to sort of see, okay, now we can circle back to these other heroes to give them a chance to be in the spotlight. And I'm just super excited. I just can't wait for more games.
It's sort of a weird one because if math is mathing for me, you started. I think your first spot on this show was Part the Mistveil.
Probably. I think so.
I think it was, and so that's an interesting, like a circle moment for us that Part the Mistveil is gone from CC now entirely, and the first thing we had you on, the piece of advice you gave players as the judge of judges was just D-cheese.
Yes.
And now
and then I went and didn't do that on day 2 of Nats.
That's right. Yeah. Oh my God. Day 2 of the calling. But
well, yeah, calling at Nats. Sorry.
But it's a weird moment, and it's obviously, we talked, about before with, there's been a lot of conversation with hero speedrunning, to LL. If we had the current LL point system in place with the Mistveil heroes, they would all still be legal, or they likely would still be legal. New would only be at 500 points as an example. But now, they're gone, but I think we're also seeing, and, obviously, Josh, don't get yourself in trouble, but I think we are seeing a point now where there will be a little bit more aggressive tack on bringing some of those early to bed heroes back quicker. We're seeing with Aurora, obviously, we already know that. So I think that kind of that turn is going to be a thing. So we'll see the Mistveil heroes, I think, back sooner rather than later. And
no comment.
Right. Don't get yourself in trouble. But that's just my personal opinion of it all. From just kind of the attitudes towards some of these speedruns and what's been done to sort of mitigate that from happening, especially with the new player influx has been, again, very large.
Yeah.
And so there's got to be some sort of sensitivity to people buying in and then immediately having the thing they bought into gone, which was, that was the chain experience too in Monarch. But I think that will, while they're gone for now, they're not gone for long. That's my personal opinion. I'm not asking for confirmation, just saying I think that seems likely to me.
Yeah. I think there's a really cool aspect as well. Like, I personally am a big fan of like a bigger roster as well. Like I think that personally, I think we're at the point now where I feel like the roster is like big enough that we can inject, like still have a steady growth, but a slower growth than what we've had previously. We've introduced like 5 or 6 heroes per set into the rotation.
Right.
But like, I've always been a big fan of like fighting game rosters. Like, of course, Super Smash Bros was like my go-to. And I love just seeing like them just adding like 1 or 2 more heroes, also more characters to that roster. And like with Fab, being able to be like, okay, we're at like what 30, 40 heroes now, and this is like
30. There'll be 35 legal in Classic Constructed.
Yeah, and it's just like
after New is gone.
When we add like an additional like 2 heroes, 3 heroes to that, have like 1 or 2 rotated out. That feels like a really good pace to me, and it feels like it still energizes the scene, energizes the meta. It keeps people interested. People who like feel well their heroes still have like the ability to jump onto a hero that's similar or like engages them in a similar way when you've got a roster that large. And I don't know, like I feel like we're at a really comfortable number of heroes.
I want a Marvel vs. Capcom 2 size roster.
What's that at now?
56 is Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
I want a League of Legends size roster.
That's like 109.
I think it's more.
What did Super Smash Bros. Get up to? Ultimate before it stopped.
Super Ultimate. Super Smash Bros. Roster.
That was like, it was like 60 something, wasn't it?
It looks like 82 when you get to the DLCs. 69
Nice.
And then nice 69 with the non-DLCs over the course of all series, and then 82 if you count like Pyra, Mystra as 2 characters, and Pokemon trainer, the 2 different Pokemon trainers, or the 3 different Pokemon trainers as different characters.
Yep.
And then the 3 Mii fighters as different characters, things like that. So mechanically unique, I think, is in like the 77, 78 range.
Oh yeah, because you've got like Peach and Daisy and
right.
Yeah.
But I think that Flesh and Blood could definitely support a roster of 40 without really feeling bad about it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like, I think that when you've got a roster that large, it's really nice for people to be able to explore and jump onto different heroes and find something that they identify with. Of course, it's like a far shot from what it used to be when we were playing like friggin' Dorinthia mirrors all day back in WTR.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I would also like to point out that Gravy Bones has more living legend points, even at the 0.5 multiplier, than Olympia and Betsy combined. I just want to throw that out there.
Fair enough.
So, because I was curious, there is currently 170 champions in League of Legends.
Why? Ugh.
Talk about a balancing nightmare.
Yeah, I'm not in. Can't do it.
God,
but my God, that is so many. Like when people say like I'm a this main, I just always ignore it because I don't.
How would you even pick your main? You just roll a dice.
I don't know. I guess. Like what dice? What dice? What 170 side dice do you have, Josh?
I don't know. Just roll 2 D10s twice and just hope you land on the number.
Sure. Sounds great. Whatever your mechanism is to achieve that. Fuck me. But there was also a battle hardened in Bologna, won by Pro Tour champion Arthur Treat. It was high seas limited, so no living legend points for that one. But again, somebody that Fab's a weird game, right? If you turns out the people who are good at it are good at it. Huh? Who knew?
Who knew?
But that was an exciting, because like you had a couple of instances there where if either Azalea or New won, with both of them being in the top 8, they were gone.
Well, that was the case with Nats as well, right? Like we had the opportunity for Azalea and New in US Nats to possibly. I think that was one of the during the commentary and whatnot, they were like, that's the dream. It's like have the Azalea New finals of the US Nats to send one of them off. But I think that the Nats went pretty well from my perspective. I think we had a great narrative there.
Yeah, you had a really good narrative on that one. It was fascinating to read both sides of that finals game and like the thought processes between Caleb and Jacob Majin, for those that don't know to pair the name.
I know I've told this story before, but I didn't bring it up the last time when we were talking about Nats, so I want to mention it here. This Nats finals was very special for me because the very first like big event that Majin, Caleb, played in was a calling that I was at. Like we were essentially like teaching him the game that
Indianapolis,
weekend.
Right?
Yes, it was Indianapolis. Yeah. It was a Tales of Aria sealed event.
Yep.
And for those of you who don't know, he was actually on stream a couple of times on day one because he was doing very well.
Caleb Van Patten,
exactly. So because he was so new to the game, he was very clearly like making mistakes, misreading cards. Like no big deal. He's just very new, right? Twitch chat roasted him after the first game. And then when he showed up on the second time later in the day, the chat started saying, oh, look, it's known cheater Caleb Van Patten, just all over. So I like to, whenever we're talking, I'll like throw that barb every now and then. And then I was realizing that for all of the hate he got there and me just being like, sometimes people just make mistakes. Now he's all the way in the finals of Nats. And then we have the famous Psych Below.
Yeah, the Psych Below.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. I'm just like, yeah, that's the known cheater Caleb
Van Patten,
right?
Yep. But it was interesting to read those reports, because Jacob's whole thing was, we played this matchup a bunch of times and they send the arcane at the allies. And so it's not worth bringing in AB because, I'm going to try to sneak in some allies plus attacks, and that's how we're going to whittle them down. And then we're going to hopefully they run out of stuff to kill me with, and yada, yada, yada. And Caleb, no face at all, face, never ally face. Which Jacob was just like, what the fuck, as soon as it happened, because no one played that way.
You're supposed to kill the whaler, and he's like, who?
Why?
Why would I kill the whaler when I could just kill you?
Yeah, I love Bob Marley. I don't want to kill the whaler. This sucks.
Oh, that game was outstanding. Do you know, I didn't even, I had to watch that game twice. So I watched all the semifinals. I watched the quarterfinals, and we got up to the finals. But unfortunately, I had to walk my dog because he had been inside all day, and I was like, all right, I have to go quickly walk my dog and whatnot. I hope they don't start the finals right away. They started the finals right away, so I was listening to the commentary on my walk. So I was just relying specifically on the commentary, and they keep talking about the sink below and the scenes, and I'm just imagining Marjan Bay being like, ah!
Oh, known cheater, Caleb Van Patten.
That's good. But watched it a second time, and he reacted exactly how I imagined him to react to that. But amazing, outstanding game. If anybody hasn't watched it, it's one of those games that you don't have to watch live. You should go back and actually watch what happens, because the games are just absolutely phenomenal. And like Brian mentioned recently, I think that our coverage game has been steadily increasing. It is probably one of the best points of coverage of Flesh and Blood that we have done so far. And it is just an absolute pleasure to watch now. So I certainly don't miss any that I, if I can, because they're all such a treat now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great watch. It was great being in the room. There was a lot happening, a lot going on. I remember I got to say something to Majin really quick about drafting, and he's just like, yeah, but I think I'm gonna get bodied right now because I'm pretty sure Lucas's deck is better than mine. And then that didn't happen.
But he got caught on stream being like, yeah, this is such a bad deck, and just proceeds to win nationals.
Wins nats. But he did that in Portland. He did that when he was just playing Verdance and got a round one lost because he didn't fucking register for the tournament.
That's right. He turned up and he hadn't registered, right? He was
right.
He hadn't even been registered into the tournament, and he had to go and ask to be input into round one with a loss. Yeah.
And he had the wrong cards because he wanted snags and ended up with Poison the Wells instead because they were blue cards with no block, but they were in different language. So he's like, this must be it. And then in the first round, he's like, I guess he was talking about, he told the story. He's like, yeah, I walked back to the group of people I was talking with. I'm like, man, that matchup sucked. It's so bad, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, did you lose? No, I won. But this deck is shit. And that proceeded to happen over and over and over and over again. And it's like, well, the deck's bad, but I guess.
Yeah, for any listeners, if you want to hear the full story, go listen to or watch Marjan Bay's story time, because the way he tells it is
it's really good.
Outstanding.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But there are other things that are fantastic, and that's the rules of Flesh and Blood. And we happen to know the person that wrote a lot of them because that's you. And so now we get to talk about them.
Yay!
Which you love to do.
Absolutely.
For some reason.
All the time.
You pedantic fuck. So we are going to start with allies, though, because allies are a kind of two things. Allies are these specific allies are a shift from what we've seen prior, in a couple of different ways. And additionally, it's kind of become a hot button topic at points with the Flesh and Blood community, specifically around the mechanic of tapping. Now, the differences in these allies is they don't block. You don't block with them. They aren't flip allies. There's no two sides to them. They just have health, have power, and then usually have a tap effect that is not attacking and a tap effect that is attacking. So let's hop into the design a little bit and how it interacts with the rules. At what point were you just like, it's tap, just turn the damn thing sideways? It's called just tap. Like, are we good here? It's just tap.
Well, it was James's idea to introduce tapping as part of the design map for this set. And so it was entrenched in that from the very beginning of like the design cycle. James obviously designs the vast majority of sets in Flesh and Blood. And this essentially was just, input into this idea that you could tap an ally, or you could tap your hero, or you could tap an equipment, and then it untaps at the end of your turn. And when I first saw it, I was like, oh, well, this is just once per turn. Like, this is just once per turn condensed. But it does hold quite a significant difference because of like different timings from when it goes from being tapped to being untapped again. And the fact that you can't do it once per turn on like your turn and then your opponent's turn, which is like super relevant for things like, Chowder, for example.
Or Chum. Yeah.
Yep. Or, Chowder or Chum. Those are the ones. Or is it Rigor Mortis as well? No.
Rigor really just attacks. Kelpie is the one that taps down your opponent's stuff.
Yeah. Kelpie as well. So like there are a few like different instances of it as well as like the Necromancer chess piece, which could become relevant.
Dead Threads. Yeah.
Could become more relevant in future as well, like as we start to increase the card pool. So there's definitely like an element of this is cool for certain use cases, but not for other use cases. And I think that they can exist in sort of like they can coexist in different spheres of like what we want to be able to do with certain cards. Tapping essentially becomes a resource for a permanent. It can either be tapped or untapped. And there's also other vectors of interaction where you can prematurely tap an ally or, their hero or something before they can use it, or untap it so that you can use it again. And those are sort of things that you can't really do necessarily with like the once per turn effects. Like you can't, use up a once per turn effect on your opponent's weapon. You can prevent them from using the weapon entirely with like, the Kabuto, the helm. But you can't just go ahead and say, hey, I'm going to absorb one use from this weapon. Or if you go ahead with something like, if you have two activated abilities on a card and you qualified them both as once per turn, you could use each ability once. And you can't do that with tapping. You would have to use your tap resource on one of those abilities, and then you'd have to wait for it to refresh. And then, like I said as well, like using it on different turns, interaction with tapping and untapping versus being able to attack with like a weapon additional time or activate an ability additional time. So I think it's really cool to see like a different interpretation of like how we can expand out activated abilities and like sort of look at different states of different classes. I think that we're in this state now where it might be a little bit more awkward because obviously things like, Gold Kiss Rum, tapping your hero, it doesn't untap until the end of your next turn if you're not a pirate. Like, that's a little bit awkward for heroes that don't have a tapping mechanic with them. But I think over time, as we sort of start to bring out more cards that do interact with tapping, or more permanents that interact with tapping, or more effects that go ahead and untap or tap things, I think that this will sort of even out and become a more intuitive experience where we have both coexisting.
Okay, got a question then.
Yes.
So if you are playing as Shiana,
yep,
and you have copied Scurv, and you have a Gold Kiss Rum and you use it on your turn, does your Shiana untap? Is it still a pirate when untap happens?
Yes, she does. Shiana is
because it's until the beginning of next turn, right?
Beginning of your next turn. So at the end of your current, so you would start at your action phase, you become a copy of Scurv, you have a Gold Kiss Rum, you activate Gold Kiss Rum, you tap your hero. At the beginning of your end phase, during your end phase, during end phase procedure, you untap because you're currently a thief. So you are currently a pirate. And then at the beginning of your next turn, you stop being a thief again. So, yeah, you should be all good.
Shiana bullshit.
Yep. That's not even the most complicated Shiana stuff.
No, not even close. How much time did the other question I have in here, I think it's relevant because I get interested because, obviously they design the cards and then they kind of ship them to you or ship the ideas to you. And you have to be like, the fuck am I supposed to do with this? How much of that did you have with allies, or was it you kind of looked at them like, okay, this is simple enough to wrap around?
I think we got I think this set was surprisingly not easy, but it was a little bit simplified, especially compared to the Hunted. The Hunted was insane. Kiss of Death, right. Like all that nonsense. Like this set was relatively straightforward in comparison. There were obviously a few questions regarding things like when do you untap and remembering APUD, Arsenal pitch, untap draw, and like a couple of other small like questions around the logistics of tapping as well. But we didn't spend a huge amount of time on like the addition of allies. Like you said, it's a new way to play allies. They don't have a blocking value. They just come in as allies. Watery Grave was kind of interesting, being able to turn things upside down in the graveyard and not being able to interact with them anymore. There's a super cool interaction actually with Rifting and Watering Grave too. So let's say you attack with Rifting, it hits, you're able to play your next non-attack action card as an instant. Yep. Your Gravy Bones, you go ahead and destroy an amulet, a blue amulet. It goes to the graveyard. Watery Grave triggers. So you've got your Watery Grave trigger on the stack. You then play out that amulet as an instant on the stack, layer 2. The instant resolves. It becomes a permanent in the arena. What happens?
Well, the object has changed, so it'd be face up in the arena, right?
No. So the object only changes.
The object didn't change.
The object only changes when it goes into a zone outside of the arena. So when it goes from the arena to the graveyard, it becomes a new object. But if it goes from the graveyard back into the stack and then to the arena, it's the same object. And the reason that is the case is because if we want counters and effects to remain on an object when they get played, so if you've got an aim counter on an arrow in your arsenal, you want that aim counter to stay there when you're attacking with it. Or if you give, I think there's a shadow card that gives a target card in your banish zone go again or something. You want it
shadow puppetry,
yeah.
Or no, that doesn't. That isn't it. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So you want it to retain that effect while it moves from the graveyard onto the stack. So it has to be the same object. So what happens is it's the same object. It moves from the graveyard to the stack to the arena. It's a permanent in the arena, and then you resolve Watery Grave, and Watery Grave's instruction is turn it face down. So it is a permanent that is face down in the arena, and it will probably remain that way for the rest of the game because
now is there priority between with the Watery Grave trigger still on that with this ability as an instant, you can then sacrifice it again.
Yep, that's right. You can go ahead and instant the ability again. In which case it goes to the graveyard. Watery Grave will trigger on it again. Layer 2, that resolves. It will get flipped face down in graveyard. And then the second Watery Grave trigger basically fizzles because the object doesn't exist anymore. But it's just like a funny quirk of the rules that you can like play out this Watery Grave card and it still sinks if you don't play it fast enough, but it sinks into the arena.
All right, sure.
It's that's the kind of like interactions that we couldn't really escape from without like breaking the whole system.
There's 9. Hear me out. There's 9 amulets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Counting every color of rifting, there's 9 possible riftings you can put in your deck, right?
You just want to rift as hard as you can.
So I need printed a card that says if you have 9 face down permanents or cards in the arena, you win the game. Like if you jump through all the hoops, that's your alternate win con.
You're going to be pummeling Riftings to try to fucking do this.
Yes.
I think you don't even need to go that far. I think you should just get an achievement on your gym profile that you managed to get 9 face down amulets.
Yeah, that's fine. If every time somebody pulls up my gem, it says Rift Master, I'm okay with that.
Rift Master. You'd be like, this is the start of your Rift bound story. Or it
could be Watery Gravekeeper. I like
Watery
that.
Gravekeeper's pretty good.
You guys, it should be the Amulet Sing King.
Oh.
I like it.
I hate everything. God damn it. Okay. Well, that's fine. I still fucking hate errata, by the way, Josh. So yeah, because Anka, one, I get why, because Anka would be obnoxious if it wasn't that a wording change somewhere in there to make it so that you can't prevent them from drawing a card on their drawing at the end of the A PUD, as it were. But that is not what the card says, and makes me mad.
Yep, I know.
Okay, as long as we're on the same page. Next thing I had on the list was basic rarity. This seems like pretty straightforward, and it's something I kind of am in with because it was really confusing to have token and token type.
Yeah, it's something that I've been working towards as well, just as part of a broader Fab experience where we're looking at, clarifying syntax, clarifying language, just trying to make things more accessible and understandable. And that was a big sticking point that we've been looking at for a little while about, what sort of language do we want to communicate things with? And again, it'll be a little bit confusing to start off with, people mixing up basic and token for a little while. But I think that as we, move forward and create more sets and use the same rarity, that we will continue to be able to use basic and actually understand what we're talking about. For me as well, it's a really big thing for talking about rarity in limited, clarifying the language of, if you're starting a limited game, it's much easier to say, hey, when you're in this limited set, you get all the basic cards. You don't need to draft basic cards. You get basic cards. So that includes your hero. It includes your weapon. It includes tokens. It includes things like, Goldfin Harpoon or Phoenix Flame or things that you can put in your deck or Helios Miner.
Treasure Island is a basic, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it just clarifies a lot of things, being able to use that language without people thinking oh, I have to draft this card, or, oh, it's a token hero, I can alter it using the token alter policy. It's no, there's a separation now that we can use less specific wording, and because we've created the separation between basic and token, as long as we continue to use that terminology, it'll make things a lot clearer in future. So I'm very happy with the change, to be honest.
Yeah, also really happy that the adult heroes are out of the Majestic slot. Also a very, very good change. Yes, they don't appear very often in boxes. That's fine. The fact that they took up a slot in the rarity cycle that could have gone to something that is more useful than your third copy of KO Berserker Runt is helpful at the very least. So that's a great change in my mind as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just accessibility and just the perception of it as well. Certainly even if there wasn't a change in the drop rate or anything like that, I feel like you can't move away from the perception of people thinking that it takes up a Majestic slot or takes something away from the player, when in some cases it doesn't at all. So,
right. Just having it there is got people in a tizzy if nothing else. What? I think Darick, did you have anything for any of that? Have you even opened a pack of High Seas yet?
No.
Oh. What?
Nope.
That's ridiculous.
I have not.
Someone should send this man some High Seas.
I mean, oh shit, well, they're over. So I forgot to grab them
and everything sold out. And
I forgot to grab them for stream. God damn it. But so Diana, the green cosplayer, called my bluff. And so she did the Lena Bell thing in Vegas and brought high seas for people, as with the Lena Bell thing. But she also went and bought off eBay Ecto Cooler high seas that have expired 10 years ago. Because Darick and I both said in 4K that we would still drink this even if it was expired. Mm-hmm. So now we're priced in. Yeah. And at some point in time on stream, on recording, I'm going to have to drink one of those.
Well, maybe it's a good thing you're not drinking one now, because if this is going to be a long episode, I don't want you fainting or...
I have a bucket right here. I can, no problem.
I don't remember any rules about not being able to spike it, though. So
there were no rules on spiking it. I could just use.
I just figured if you just
alcohol.
if you just put some vodka in there with it, you're good to go. That's how it works,
that's
right?
probably true. I mean, I did. So one of my buddies, Brandon, who was with us in Vegas when else was going down, is a forensic scientist, and so I was like, "All right, bud, how fucked am I?" He's like, "Honestly, they're not really bulging." So they're not, you don't have gases creating in there. The worst thing that probably happened is it probably lost some flavor and went flat. You're probably just fine. So, but just in case, can you not do it here? Because just dealing with food poisoning with you on a plane probably would suck.
Yeah. Actually, I wonder what percentage of alcohol would you need to make it to make sure that it kills off the microbes, the bacteria?
Only one way to find out.
Yeah, you're gonna need grain alcohol for this shit.
Well, you start at 100 proof or 90 proof or something, and then
I'd probably go straight up to 151. So you're looking at 75.5 proof. Or sorry, 175.5% alcohol by volume. Which I used to just drink for fun. And I would probably be using Bacardi 151 to cut it, to potentially burn out anything that would be ill affecting. If that still got me, and it was definitely this juice and not the 151, it would have to go up to Everclear, which is 190 proof, right?
The alternative is that you could boil it, then cool it down, and then recarbonize it and
I don't own that kind of chemistry.
Recarbonate it.
Nah.
Do you have
It's not carbonated. It's not carbonated.
Oh, it's not?
It's juice.
Oh, okay. Well,
it is.
Yeah, just heat it up and cool it down and serve it with some ice.
Serve it over ice. No, I am. Mama didn't raise no bitch. So we're going to be just popping open because she gave me a can and gave me one of the sealed packs of boxes. So we're going to pop the can and we're going to go for it. Probably the next time that's just Charmer and I recording.
Surely this is an episode 200 thing, right?
I could wait longer. I definitely could wait longer.
What is 10 years? What is another 2 months over 10 years?
on top of 10 to 10 years? Yeah, I could. I mean, there's nothing that says I can't. And that even gives me time potentially to get some of these to Charmer. And then he would also have to do the shit.
Yeah.
Because he is also not a coward.
No.
And we did say it. It's on us.
And then you can say, Charmer, that the first high seas that you ever opened is this.
Yeah. Everything just for the most part sold out fast. I didn't attend Vegas. I think of the LGSs near me, I think there is some that is still I would describe as slightly available, but being that I'm primarily an assassin guy, there wasn't a lot of reason for me to rush for this set. Marlin intrigued me, and I would be open to playing her again, but I was going back through the old stuff that I had, and it does look like I got rid of most of what were my Ranger staples. I couldn't remember if I did or not, but I think when I was in Prague, I traded it, when I was trading for some of the assassin stuff, I traded my New Horizons and some of that, and so now I'm do I want to do the Marlin thing or
Harpoon Marlin doesn't play New Horizons, so there's that. And honestly, the prices for singles from High Seas have plummeted.
Yeah.
Outside of Gravy's stuff and then Rich's of Tropaldani, which what?
Yeah.
Okay, so Josh, when you saw that one in proofing, did you just go, no? But why?
When I saw that one in proofing, the ban of cash-in made sense, like a lot more sense.
Yeah,
like
sure did.
Looking at the High C set, and I was like, oh my god, there's so many ways to make gold. Oh my god, like I can't believe, like, years ago when Crucible of War came out, we had copper. We didn't have any silver, any gold. We were like, man, gold will be like super hard to make and like it'll be crazy good. Maybe it'll be like
put on a hat and pitch a gem. That's all you got.
Yeah. And now it's just like so much more
just
accessible.
Be Victor.
I mean, or if you're Victor, it's just your shield.
Right. Like just be Victor and pawn your stuff. No,
that's right.
I'll say this about Riches. I'm surprised it's not a pirate card.
That's what I was surprised about too.
The fact that like I look at, because comparatively, again, I live everything right now through the lens of an assassin, but like I look at that as very similar to Plague Hive. Right? Plague Hive is at least class based, makes a token, but you don't even get to choose the token, and it's arguably not nearly as like always impactful as the gold is. And then, Riches is just like, oh, by the way, I'm also generic. Like,
Oh, I haven't done a Kasai check today to see how much this deck costs. Hold on.
What was it at last week? 2.5?
2,400.
Yep.
Yeah. So where are we this week? My decks, and this is for base rarity, not for the version I have built. 25 still. 25 now. Sorry. Buy this deck for $2,500. I mean,
or play Riptide.
Or play Riptide. But because and then the fun part is like once I start figuring out that's like, okay, this is the base rarity of this stuff. So make these Brave Forge Bracers cold foil, both these Sabers cold foil, this Crown of Dominion cold foil, these Grains cold foil, these Dynamos cold foil. The Shelter from the Storms foil, the Sink Belows are London Sinks, the Balance of Justice is cold foil, the Crown is cold foil, and suddenly it's like 8.5.
We were talking about if Tekla gets really good, that's going to be a very expensive deck as well.
So expensive.
Yeah, because you have to get like if you wanted to go max rarity, you're talking 3 Marvels for each of the Evo Steel Souls, plus whatever your equipment is, plus like you said, like pimped out sinks, unmovable,
plus singularity.
Yeah, and and 2 singularities, because you need one for one that's just like in your sleeve, and then you just like flip in your other one because it's a double face card there. But yeah, so these things come and go. They wax and wane, right?
They do. I mean, if it wasn't for, because like my check today on Riches had it at 360, and my check on Eye of Ophidia had it at 550. So a flat up $900 in Fableds. So, that's a good start to getting you there for sure. But again, we play a trading card game that has collectible pieces. This will happen. And the prices will eventually level out. It just so happens that right now several heroes want both of those cards. And so
you're kind of heroes want both of those cards.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's a bridge right now that's very painful for people. But like High Seas availability here isn't bad at all. Like I'm just able to walk into my LGS and purchase it for the minimum allotted price by LSS and walk out.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's great. Even no problems. But we even drafted it on Saturday night. Last night. And I tried to draft Puffin. Fuck, I'm never doing that again.
I've heard Puffin has some specific strategies that you need to really sort of like go towards. I'm terrible at draft, so I just play whatever.
Yep. Next thing on my list of stuff is card choosing, which I didn't even know this was a thing. But you were able to Prior to this, you're able to choose cards in the graveyard?
It's part of like when you this is something I say about rules. Like often we sort of hand wave new interactions because we don't have an idea or a clear idea on the consequences of doing so until we like finalize them in a future design space. So when we looked at things like Oasis Respite, which is like back in Uprising, which is quite a few sets ago now, Oasis Respite came out, and we were like, do we want to be able to target things or like choose cards that aren't on the stack or in the arena? Like if somebody has like a face-up card in Arsenal, can you decide you want to prevent damage from that card even though it hasn't been played? And at that time, that was like 50-50. We're on the fence. Yeah, why not? Why don't we allow people to be able to do this? And then if something breaks in the future, we can close off that interaction. So when we came up to looking at allies, one of the things that we were considering with the Gravy Bone allies was we want to be able to prevent people from destroying the allies on the stack. So I'm going to play Whaler Humperdinck or something like that. I don't want somebody to burn bear it and destroy it immediately. And one of the things that we were looking at the time was like, oh, what if we reduce targeting to just being in the arena, not on the stack at all? And one of the other options that came up with that was, oh, well, choosing then becomes like weird because choosing is so broad and targeting is so narrow. Is there a way we could align it? And when we were looking at that particular change, we're like, oh, there's actually a bunch of interactions that change, not just because you can't choose stuff on the stack anymore, but because there's other stuff you can choose. And, oh, we should actually like close that loop up because that's kind of unintuitive, or it sort of like limits a bit of like random design space in future. So we didn't end up going with the targeting change in the end. We ruled it so that you could only deal damage to living objects or living permanents in the arena. You can't deal damage to stuff that's on the stack, which makes intuitive sense. But as part of that, we were like, okay, well, this is the time that we can reduce the scope of choosing and, reduce the ability to be able to destroy items in your opponent's graveyard, or like choosing cards in like your Arsenal zone for Oasis Respite, which honestly has like freed up a lot more mental space for us during proofing for future sets as well. So it was just one of those like little funky changes that we thought we would bring up to the community, making sure that they're aware that it closes off Oasis Respite, but also bringing up that, hey, we've closed off these other funky interactions as well now.
Yeah, that'd be kind of a weird one where I just never thought of this, where, you're playing as Verdance and you're at 1, your opponent's at 2. You could theoretically amp a bunch, right? And then play an Oasis Respite targeting something else entirely that doesn't matter and just gain life and shoot them for enough.
Well, I mean, you can still, because you can still choose anything in the arena. You could choose your own hero to prevent damage from if you wanted to. But it was just one of those interactions where it's like, okay, I'm going to choose your card in Arsenal just in case, maybe? I don't know.
Speculatively,
yeah. Like it might be an interesting interaction if you're playing like Oasis Respite and Kindle. Like there's nothing, like you want to be able to use Oasis Respite to prevent damage from your opponent's thing in Arsenal, but they haven't played it yet, and you want to have your hand empty for Kindle. Like there is a world where this interaction does make sense matter, but it's so minimal and so niche and just not worth the rules burden of having a separation in what you can choose and what you can target between these two types of effects. So just one of the things that we do is like clean up these rules and make them as concise and consistent as possible and make them as intuitive as possible. And this is just one of the things on the list that we managed to knock off this time.
Fair enough. Spectra, can we just get rid of it?
Yep, sure.
Sick. That means no more ALS. I'm in. Like, goddamn.
Wait. I didn't think that was still around. Didn't we all do the Ice Bucket Challenge for ALS?
So a couple of things. One, that's Lou Gehrig's disease, and that's very much so still around. That didn't cure anything. It did bring some awareness.
Did
I guess.
Did everyone do the ice bucket challenge?
See, I think that was the problem. Is that if everybody would have dumped a bucket of ice water on their head.
It's a herd immunity thing, right? Unless we get to a certain percentage, it doesn't work.
It's the same reason I haven't won the lottery, because not everyone forwarded my chain email from 1999.
So selfish. So
selfish. And but at any rate, Spectre change is that it doesn't immediately close the combat chain upon being targeted.
Yeah, the change itself is pretty in line with like how we ruled with Phantasm, for example. The idea is that we just naturally rely on the rules themselves to close the combat chain from the lack of target. And it opens up the design space for things like Barbed Barrage, where you can go ahead and clear something of Spectra and not entirely like ruin your entire turn. Like, I think that's a really nice foray or like tentative dip into the venture of being able to, clear Spectra or clear ALS, because as much as we would want, they're not going anywhere. Like, Spectra is going to exist. There might not be as many Spectra cards in the future, but Spectra is part of the Illusionist repertoire, and having alternative ways to be able to deal with them is quite nice, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was very happy to see that the change here, so that the barraging, bar barrage or whatever, is able to still deal damage through things like an ALS.
Yeah.
So because it's still targeting the ALS as per the requirement, but because it has two targets, it still has another legal target. The ALS doesn't close the combat chain. Instead, it looks and sees that there's still a legal target, and it resolves as it normally would.
Yeah.
From that point on. And I thought that was a very good thing. But it also opened this weird... Kevin Murphy described this fucking unicorn scenario thing.
Yeah. It's funny because he came up to me in, I think it was...
London.
It was London,
I'm pretty sure.
And he's like, yeah, with this new hat, can you do this and do that? And like, in response, do that. And I was like, I don't think that works, because I talked to the devs about a similar scenario, and because you're in the closed step, you can't respond to the merciful retribution trigger, and you can't do this. And then when we went back to the proofing and bar barrage and whatnot, we're like, oh, actually, you can do this because the rules change is going to be coming into effect. So I'll put that in the rules reprise, like just for him.
Yeah, I saw that, and he was so excited that it works now, and I'm like, I fucking hate this so much.
Yeah, good times.
Attack reactions, we get to target our allies now.
Woo!
I guess, hooray.
I'm just like opening up the design space again to being able to interact with your allies a little bit more. I think the card that comes to mind was like, is it Put in Context? It's like a attack no, that's a defense reaction. Nip at the Heels, I think it was.
Nip at the Heels of targets.
Nip at the Heels. So Nip at the Heels is sort of like, another card that you can consider if you want to like run that sort of like low attack allies and being able to like sneak a damage over or something like that. So like, this just gives more interplay for future design space, and being able to interact with your allies without having to make them instants is a really big problem with like just making an attack reaction an instant, especially when it involves go again, because you can essentially play that after damage has been dealt, after you're guaranteed to have hit. And that's like limits a design space if we don't allow attack reactions for allies. So that was part of the consideration for the change.
Yep. Duration of continuous effects is now just defaulted to end of turn.
Yep.
I'm going to guess this again, just clean up.
Yeah, again, just tidying things up. It makes proofing easier. It makes like weird interactions. Like, so previously, if you had like Mage Master Boots, a non-attack action card, and the non-attack action card was an aura, it would technically just have go again for the rest of its lifespan, because there's no duration on Mage Master Boots giving it go again. It doesn't matter. Well, it didn't matter until we released Reality Refractor. And because Reality Refractor gave your attacks gave your auras the ability to attack.
It has go again still.
It's go again. So the first thing that we did was if the source has go again, but the attack doesn't have go again, your attack doesn't have go again. That was the first change that we made for Reality Refractor. But this was the other loophole that of like, okay, we're just going to tidy this up. If it doesn't have a duration, it just gets cut off at the end of turn. And that just makes so many things like much, much easier to be able to manage and just reduces the cognitive load on players to have to think about like, oh, if I give this thing this property or this effect or something, I have to remember that because it might actually be relevant if we enter a design space where we're checking these sorts of things on these cards. And that's just not a good player experience.
Yeah. Reordering of graveyards and banish zones. As long as it's relevant, you can just do it.
Yep. A lot of people, like we're starting to get to the point where players are doing it anyway, even though they've been told off for it. And it just feels like we're reaching that point in Flesh and Blood competitive sort of like not the zeitgeist, just like culturally, that's where we're moving towards. We find that players are playing at a more reasonable pace when they don't have to search through their graveyard multiple times during a turn or their opponent's graveyard multiple times. It will make it very, very clear, though, that the intent of this change is to facilitate gameplay. It's not so that you can go ahead and, sort your graveyard alphabetically because you just want things to be nice and tidy, or sort your graveyard so that you know exactly what's in your deck because you're sorting it by your deck list order. It's so that if you are like, I want all my earth cards or all my watery grave cards to be at the top of the thing, even though I don't have something to interact with them now, I will soon. I'm playing Teklavos at the moment, and it's really handy for me to be able to put all my Evos to the top of my graveyard because then I don't have to search through my graveyard. Even though I don't have an effect that's doing stuff with them now, I'm very clearly interacting with Evos, and it's very handy for me to put my Evos to the top of my graveyard, and not only for my benefit, but also for my opponent's benefit. So, and the other clarity there is just making sure do not reorder your opponent's graveyard or banish zone without asking them first. Like,
right.
Be nothing worse than you being like, cool, I'm going to put all my Evos to the top of my graveyard, and your opponent just picking up your graveyard and shuffling it and then putting it back down. Like, that would just annoy the shit out of me. So,
yeah, that would drive me absolutely batshit crazy. I also just don't like when people just pick my stuff up in general without asking. I mean, it's just polite.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Like, it's funny with playing Arachne as a saying, like looking at the top card of your opponent's deck and it's just being like, play a contract card. I'm going to take a look. Is that okay? Cool. Just look. Just doing that every single time.
So usually what I do is I just say, hey, when I say peek, you just do this to me so that I can see, you know what I mean? Because reaching across and looking and then putting it on the bottom, when I can just be like, keep it or whatever and just let them do it. And then I can go upon my way. Like, one, I don't have to touch all of their stuff all the time. And it's going to happen likely at least once a turn. And also it's like, I don't know. For me, that's always worked best because unless it's something where I'm like, hey, I don't know what that is, then I might say, hey, can I take a look at that or whatever? And then they'll usually hand it over because no harm, no foul. But that's the fastest way that I handle the Huntsman thing. Because you're right, it is every turn you're like, oh, can I take a look? And I'm just like, no, just flip it up, and I'll go yup or no.
Can I take a look? 9 times out of 10, the Cheeto dust off your fingers.
Right. I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's one of two things. I'm either looking for a card that there's just no way I want you to draw because, like, if you block out my contract, I don't want to risk it. Or does your card match whatever my contract is? Right. So, like, I just need to see it real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Next one. Attacking allies and heroes with ward. Ugh.
It's not as bad as you think.
Well, then you tell
worse.
me. It's worse. Great.
I mean, like, here's the thing. Like, we follow the sort of precedent where allies don't actually get destroyed until you receive priority. It's part of like a priority state system. So even if you targeted the player and an ally at the same time, it doesn't matter if you deal damage to the ally first or to the player first. The ally still exists with 0 life, has the ward there to prevent damage to the player, and then you receive priority in the damage step and the ally gets cleared if it has 0 life. The point at which it's relevant is with like prevention effects, and I think it's with Chum, right? Chum is the damage prevention.
Chum is the damage prevention.
So like it's just relevant for things like Chum where you're targeting like an ally and the hero, and it's like, hang on, like
Chum is the one that makes him attack himself.
Oh no, Chum. What is it?
One?
Is it Rigger?
No, I don't think so. Sawbones.
Sawbones. That's the one. Let me just get it up so I can remember. I was like, oh, wait, hold on. Am I revealing information about a card that doesn't exist?
Right. I get it.
So, yeah, next time you or a pirate you control will be dealt damage this turn, prevent 1 of that damage. So this obviously only applies to 1 event of damage. So if you're dealing damage to 2 things at the same time, there needs to be an order that is declared so that this prevention can be applied to 1 of them. And basically, we just put the control of that order in the player's hands. So if you are the person that is attacking, the control is in your hands, and you get to decide what that damage gets, what prevention gets applied there, essentially. And it's just the easiest way. Like in a UPF scenario, we can determine the order that it gets applied in like clockwise. So player to your left, and then their left, and then their left. But if it's a bunch of stuff controlled by one player, there needs to be an order declared. And it's just easiest to say the person attacking decides that order.
Right. That makes sense. It's less messy than I thought. Destroying flipped. This is one of the things that I was wondering about when we first saw Midas Touch, because it's just Doomblade. But when you destroy a figment or a dragon or whatever that has flipped to the other side, it does not have a cost.
Yep, that's right.
So when it gets blown up, they get no gold. Good day. It's dead. But if you were to blow up a whaler, they get lots of gold because it has a cost.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just like look at the object as it is now in the arena. That is what you're destroying. If it has a cost, they get gold. If it doesn't, they don't. It's just as simple as that. And that means like it's just another interactive element of like deciding whether or not Midas Touch is something you want to be able to have in your deck, like depending on your matchup. And it might even inform some of the future design space of changing like how allies are played in future. Like up until now, allies have only sort of been in the arena with flipped cards or double face cards. And now that we're moving into like sort of this single face card ally, world, this is sort of like another design space that we can look into sort of exploring.
Yep, makes sense. Last thing, because I didn't even know how to even talk about this really. I just wrote back alley break line shenanigans because what?
I love back alley break line.
I know you do.
It is such a cool card. When it first came out, I was like, this is so cool. Like in future, there's going to be like so many different ways to be able to put this in other zones face up, like into your arsenal, into your banish, into the top of your graveyard. I didn't even think about into your pitch zone. Because of course we've got that now, being able to pitch the top card of your deck. And there's still even more unexplored areas of that too. Like, at the moment it's sort of, the top of your deck interaction, but like there's nothing that would prevent you from, moving it from the bottom of your deck or going to find a card to put it into, like, for example, is it Call to the Grave?
Call to the Grave just gets you you can go get this and it just gives you an action point.
Yeah, it just gives you an action point. And I'm like, this is so cool. Like, I love this interaction.
Or in this, it's just a weird card from Arc that is a 1 cost block 2 rainbow 5/4/3 that if an activated ability or action card effect puts back alley breakline face up into a zone from your deck, gain an action point. So amazing. You play the thing that pitches. You play tip the bar, or what is it? Not tip the barkeep. The one that pitches a blue.
Saltwater Swell? No,
that's one of them.
Shifting Tides. No.
It's played in gravy. It's
Shifting Tides. At the start of your turn, pitch the top card of your deck. If it's blue, put this on the bottom of your deck. Otherwise, destroy this.
Yeah, I think the one I'm thinking of is actually Sunken Treasure. Yeah, when this nope, that's the one that turns stuff's face down. There's another one that you look at the top two cards, you pitch one of them, and you put one in your graveyard. We pitch one if it's blue. Yeah, chart the high seas. Yes. There's the one. So you just chart, and it's just like, okay, pitch the break line for three resources and an action point.
Yep.
And put this ally in the graveyard, make a gold.
Outstanding.
Like, what the fuck?
The dream play.
the dream is here, bud. Like, we're just doing it. So I was just like, okay, that's just really cool. I hadn't thought about that yet. And I'm a big fan of this bullshit.
Yeah, and I think it's so cool because it's like when that card came out, it was like, this is sort of like limited filler. Like you can put this generic in a mech deck, and it's not a miss. Essentially, that's essentially what it was for mech. Is you try to boost, you put this from your deck into your banner zone, you still get an action point. And then of course, like you Azalea, you put this like from the top of your deck into your arsenal. You can play this without, with Go Again, and sort of. It's always been in the back of my mind that like these sort of limited oriented cards, or sort of what it seems like limited oriented cards, actually have like a much larger purpose. And it just takes some time for new cards to come out for them to be incredibly potent in the right combination. And I don't know if it's going to be meta. I don't know if the top tier gravy lists or whatever are going to play this card. But the fact that it sort of has these increased synergies and has this increased interaction is just so cool to witness.
Let's see if any of the gravy decks that I've seen so far play this thing, because I don't think they do, but it's still so funny. Oh no, they do play one copy at least.
Oh, that's awesome. Blue?
Yeah, so it is happening. Yeah, one blue. So it is happening.
If only
we're doing the thing.
3.
If it blocked 3, it might be a snap 3 of. So there are so many just weird cards. You look at the Gravy Bones decks, and it's just like, yep, we're just trying to generate as many action points as we possibly can so that we can play out multiple allies in a turn and do things. And if all else fails, fuck it, Conqueror of the High Seas, attack. But yeah, so interesting. I think that covers most of the rules changes that I saw. Was there anything that I missed that you wanted to talk about?
There's nothing particularly comes to mind. I think you got the majority of it from the Back Alley Oracle. Oh, fun fact, by the way. Back Alley Oracle comes from the name Back Alley Breakline.
Back Alley Breakline.
Yep. Back Alley Oracle. So back before I started working for LSS, I was actually designing my own card database. And I was trying to come up with a name for the database, like where it would be hosted or what its domain name would be. And Back Alley Oracle was the original domain name that I got for it. And then it was once I joined LSS and I ran out of time to write my own card database and whatnot, we needed a new article name for these rules changes, and the comprehensive rules thing came out. So I reused Back Alley Oracle to describe those changes.
It's a good name.
Yeah, I like it. Hopefully we see more of I really like the whatchamacallit theme, like that beak mask, that sort of like witch doctor.
Oh, the plague doctor?
The
plague doctor.
Yeah. I really would like to see more of like that plague doctor aesthetic as well. So hopefully when we get back to the pits or something like that, we'll see more of the sort of plague doctor.
Because Death Touch has that, right?
Listen, I agree with you. I think it's a great look. And if we go back to the pits, I know that lots of players have been clamoring for an alchemist class. So if there was ever a hero design where you could combine those two, right? You just make a plague doctor alchemist person who's, handing out, like, you're right, Death Touch has the thing, but like, I just want to hand out more blood rot pocks and some other fun stuff.
And call it
you're a giant dick.
Dr. Mortimer. That would be a great
Dr. Mortimer.
Yeah, Dr. Mortimer, because that's the person making the quotes on.
That's the Plague Doctor.
Yeah. Back alley, break line, malign, inertia. They all reference Dr. Mortimer.
So he's just the Plague Doctor.
Just the Plague Doctor, yeah. Although on malign, he doesn't have the Plague Doctor mask. He's just going au naturel.
He's just breathing in the consumption at that point. He stopped giving a fuck.
You get to that point in your career.
Well, Josh, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 listener questions, and a lot of them are multi-parters.
Let's get into it.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, let's go. So, first one is, we're going to start off hot. The first one's from Sephiroth. Josh, is there anything in the rules that says I can't say good boy anytime my opponent takes a turn?
Well, that would probably come under a certain policy in the tournament rules and policy. You know what? Let me find it for you. What we're talking about. Let's see. Procedure.
It's the
penalty guide.
Safety, harassment, whatever.
Yeah.
I forget the exact wording, but it's basically something about you can't make your opponents uncomfortable or...
Yeah, it comes under unsporting conduct. The player by their own action displays negative, offensive, or disruptive behavior that affects the safety or enjoyment of others and or negatively affects the integrity.
Point of information. What if it's your opponent's kink?
Look, who am I to judge the actions between two consenting adults?
That's right.
Just make sure that it doesn't negatively affect those around you. And if it would, make sure that you're doing it in the privacy that those actions afford.
I think we spent as much time on this as we need to. The next one's from Quiet Mind 42. Question for Josh. With Gravy and Jarl frequently taking games to time, has there been any internal discussion around the rules for play speed and how to handle time in the game?
So this is an ongoing topic, right? There's always a discussion. There's no right solution for this. There's no correct line in the sand. This is the perfect solution. This is what we're going to go with for the end of time. We certainly always do keep an eye on how games are progressing. We look at our limited times, we look at our blitz timings and CC timings, and ideally, the round time ensures that we get 95 to 98% of games done. Because it's non-linear as well. The amount of games that finish over a given amount of time is non-linear. Just because you have 50% of games complete at 1 hour doesn't mean that you have 100% of games complete at 2 hours, for example. So when we talk about how many games we get completed within that time, what we're trying to do is we say we want the vast majority of games to complete within this time. We want some games to come to their natural conclusion within that sort of little edge casey time. And then if you're not done by that time, we just call it a draw. And it's not only for tournament logistics. So that's a huge part of it. Obviously, we don't want people playing aggro mirrors to wait around for 4 hours for, a control mirror to finish. But it's also for the player incentive to finish their game and to speed up their game to make sure that they're playing at a reasonable pace and finishing within that time. We can afford more time for our top 8 games to come to their natural conclusion. Obviously, we still want our players to play at a reasonable pace, but when you're not holding up a hall full of 1,000 players to get one game to finish, that's when we can afford to essentially have untimed rounds. For things like Gravy and Jarl, it's an unfortunate consequence of this balancing game where there are going to be some matchups that do take a bit longer to complete than your aggro mirrors. But the important thing as part of that is knowing what your deck does, making sure that you're able to take your actions in the least amount of time possible, or the correct actions in the least amount of time possible, and reminding your opponent to play at a reasonable pace. If your opponent is taking too long to make a game action, just, a simple reminder of, hey, like we both know this matchup is a long one. We both know what we're playing, right? Like, let's make sure that we complete the game within the hour that's been allotted to us. And of course, if there's any issues, just call a judge. Judges are there to help you, negotiate these tough situations. Especially if there's a language barrier, we usually have judges who can translate for the vast majority of attendees. So, we're all there to facilitate a good gameplay experience.
I think that part of this discussion actually centers around Gravy Bones particularly, because it's not about taking too long to make a game action. It's about the number of game actions that they have to take to execute their turn. So now they're not doing nothing, but they're doing a billion things, and that naturally takes time. And so I think that concern becomes that more than it's the Sensei's divining top conversation.
Well, I mean, it's more than that though, because the thing with Gravy Bones, or at least what I've seen so far from coverage and whatever, is just that it reminds me a lot of like early Dromai days as well. It's whenever you have a lot of bookkeeping for your class, like, yes, there's a lot of actions, but it's also one of those things where because there's no like digital client involved or whatever, like your actions take time. And I've said this before, and I will say it again if you are listening. If you are somebody who practices with an online tool of some sort, make sure you also play games physically, because you do not, I think, fully understand how long just physically moving the cards around adds up until you do it. And so if you're somebody who's like, I don't have a problem going to time because like none of my games on Talishar go for an hour. Well, guess what? That's because you're not physically doing all of the things. And again, it was something that I saw a lot with like Dromai in the early days, because when you have all those allies, you have to attack with all your allies. When you have, with Dromai, it was you have to do the dust and, put dust under your cards and whatever. And with with Gravy, you've got, make my gold token, draw my card, do the thing. Does it pitch to my pitch zone? Okay, it did. Now I'm going to get something out of my discard pile. And like the actual game actions for your turn might only be like 3 or 4 decisions, but it's still going to take 3 or 4 times as long as it would if you had something doing it for you. So, yes, play the game and get your reps. But I do think that that's a big part of it, is just it's the bookkeeping aspect. And it's something that I personally feel like has been inherent in most of your mass ally classes for some time. Even going back to OG Prism when she had a lot of auras. Yes, you can speed through that, but we all get to that point where it's like, okay, I'm going to attack with all 7 of these. Do you have a problem with just us skipping to the end? Right? Like we've all had that conversation at a table, because you don't realize till you're doing it. Like, oh yeah, these all take time.
Yeah, and like, there are definitely ways that you can shortcut it and whatnot. And I do agree with you. I think that physical practice of like knowing what actions take time, what you can sort of skip through an agreement with your opponent and whatnot. Like when you've got a stack of rune chants, you don't ask them if you can resolve every rune chant individually. But that's something that like, the Talishar client can skip over or whatever, and you can skip over as well in, an actual game. I think if we reach the point where being practiced at a hero or being practiced at a deck or something like that doesn't allow you or afford you enough time to be able to complete your game, then that's something that we would definitely look at for, okay, how can we actually balance this out? Do we need to allot more time to a specific round? Do we need to address these problems with like fundamentally this deck? But as far as I'm aware, we're no way near that at this stage. I think that new classes is going to take a little bit of time, or new deck types, new archetypes. It's going to take a little bit of time to get there. But until then, I think that we're still in a very comfortable position.
Okay. The next one actually is from Clark J, and it is surrounding concessions and time. He underlined a portion of the policy here. I'm just going to read the entire policy and emphasize the underlined portion. In short, once time is called, players should establish if they're going to concede or continue to play without discussing future turns of the game. This is the underlying portion. Players should already be aware of the current game state and able to make an informed decision about whether they want to concede of their own volition. Now, the question that Clark asked is, the assumption underlined in red in my screenshot below is reasonable for Tier 4, but this assumption does not hold true for lower tier open entry local events. Would you ever consider keeping the policy as is for Tier 4, but allowing discussion of future terms after time is called at RTNs or PQs?
Not at this stage. The reason why we don't want this discussion to happen is sort of like twofold. One, there is an implied part of this discussion where you can basically coerce your opponent into deciding to concede. You know, you're sitting down at a local armory or a road to nationals or something like that. There's a new player. There's no barrier to entry, by the way, so that means that new players can be faced against experienced veterans. You sit down, you're playing your Jarl vs. Gravy Mirror, you go to time, and then the experienced player can be like, all right, so I've got this handful of busted cards, and like if I did this and this and this, and like what do you have? Like you wouldn't have won here. Like, you know, there's a lot of implied sort of there's a lot of opportunity to imply or put pressure on somebody to concede, and that's something that we want to avoid from a player experience point of view, and that absolutely applies more to that lower end where there's no barrier to entry. We've got new players that, you know, just want to play the game and just want to, you know, do the best that they can. The second part of that is also the logistics of it, and even at you know, our callings, our battle hardens, or even at like road to nationals, we do need to make sure that rounds progress at a reasonable pace. And any amount of discussion delays the ending of a round. If you have to spend like a couple minutes discussing the game state to work out whether or not one of you should concede, or if you want to try to end the game, those are minutes that accumulate round to round to round and can, you know, end up delaying the end of a tournament up to like, you know, 10, 20, 30 minutes, depending on how it's handled. And that's something as well that we don't really want to like have our judges police. Like, we don't want to have to have a judge sitting down at every table, like, you know, being there and being like, okay, cool, you can discuss for 5 minutes if you want to concede. Like, that is not the area that we essentially want to go. So we're pretty happy where this policy is at the moment. We feel like the players, the judges understand it, and we feel like it's in the best interest, even at the local level. It might not be, 100% correct in a lot of cases. Like, there might be a reasonable case where, you know, a discussion might improve the player experience. But with all things policy, there is no perfect solution. And at this stage, we feel like this is what's best for the player experience.
Yep. I can tell you right now that not everybody understands it. We'll move on. The next one's from Delusian Data Analyst. Josh, what is the most common ruling that new players get wrong? Second, in MTG, I was always encouraged to memorize the comprehensive rules and judging infraction policy. Is it worth doing the same in Fab? If so, what resources would you recommend to get started? So, first things first, what is the most common ruling that new players get wrong?
It's so hard. Like, new player experiences are just so different. I've done a lot of teaching for Learn to Play, and honestly, I feel like when it comes to, it depends on where they came from. Like, if they came from Magic, if they came from Yu-Gi-Oh, if they came from Pokemon, or if they came from like another card game or something, usually the ruling will have to do something about how that game has, you know, a very similar mechanic, but it's dealt with in a different way in Fab. One that does come to mind is probably attack reactions, defense reactions. It's probably like a very, very common one. The mistake made is that a lot of players, even intermediate players, make the mistake that they think that there's an attack reaction step and a defense reaction step. And once you...
Versus priority.
And that once you pass on attack reactions, you can't play anymore, even if the opponent plays defense reactions, which is not correct. The idea is that attack reactions and defense reactions are played as instants, like instants during the reaction step. You just can play them in response to one another. The caveat being that if the stack is empty, you pass on playing anything, and your opponent passes on playing anything, you cannot then play an attack reaction. You've both passed on an empty stack saying you're happy to progress the game state, your opponent has accepted, and now you move from the reaction step to the damage step. I would say that's probably the most like common or like the consistent one across players, not just new players, but intermediate players too. But yeah, it really just depends on where you came from. What was the second question?
The next one was in MTG, I was always encouraged to memorize the comprehensive rules and judging infraction policy. Is it worth doing the same in Fab? If so, what resources would you recommend to get started?
Please do not memorize the comprehensive rules.
There we go. And whoever told you to do that in Magic is a fucking psychopath.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, I've read the Magic CR a few times, and no, you shouldn't need to memorize that. Like the most important aspect, if you want to become a judge, or even like if you want to up your game as a player, and you just want to be aware of these sorts of things, there's only a few things that you should memorize or like be very familiar with. When it comes to the comprehensive rules, knowing like the basic functions of being able to distinguish between like triggers and replacement effects, being able to distinguish between static abilities and resolution abilities, knowing a bit about priority and the steps of combat, and like you're already like 50% the way through the entirety of the game. Like everything else is just clarifications on small things. And then like if you want to be familiar with the comprehensive rules, I say don't memorize it, just remember where to find things, or like learn how to find things in the comprehensive rules. When I'm making a ruling, I know exactly what sections I need to look at to find something that supports a given ruling. So if I'm looking at something for triggered effects, I'd be like, oh, we have a section in the comprehensive rules that cover triggered effects and triggered effect interactions. So I can look in those sections, and then I can scroll through to find something that's, you know, vaguely what I'm talking about. Or if I'm talking about attacks, I'm like, okay, there are two main places where you can find attacks. There's attack definitions in chapter 1 under things like object identity, and then there's combat, which is a whole chapter. So if you want to be familiar with the comprehensive rules, just learn how to find things there. In terms of the policy side of things, the key aspect is not to memorize the policy or like the outcomes, but to learn how to distinguish what infraction has been made. So if somebody goes ahead and draws 4 cards, for example, draws 5 cards instead of 4 cards at the end of their turn, and they haven't shuffled their cards, you can easily distinguish what is the 5th card that was drawn. Being able to, like, without seeing the PPG, being able to say that's a hidden card error, that's not a hidden card error, that's a looking at extra cards, because we can distinguish the 5th card. That's a really important skill to have, because you cut down on the amount of time that you have to and ah about looking at policy. Once you know what the infraction is, you just jump straight to that infraction in the PPG, and it just tells you what to do. This is the penalty, this is the procedure, this is how you go about it in competitive and professional, you're done. And that would be again, knowing where to look, because you can distinguish what penalty or what infraction it comes under is so much more of an important skill than being like, I know all the infractions and all the penalties and all the procedures.
Yeah.
I would like to pitch what I call the 80-20 rule. All right. So in business and other things, there's very often this thing where it's like, if something, works 80% of the time, you'll figure out the other 20%. It's like good enough to go forward. I think you should know, the majority of the rules, good solid 80%. And then what you remember for the other 20% is how to raise your hand and yell judge. Because that's what I do.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. Charmer, we're just going to do this now. Your opinion is that Van Helsing is just the Mummy for a new generation?
Yes.
What the fuck? No,
they
it's
both
not.
serve the exact same purpose. They're both campy monster movies that are attractive leads to awaken the bisexual youth. Like, it is fine.
What?
Like, I appreciate them both for what they are. They both have CG that doesn't hold up. They both have campy monsters. They both have plucky leads that are also attractive. Like, Van Helsing is just the Mummy.
One is fucking entertaining, and the other one is Van Helsing.
Van Helsing is entertaining.
Are you high?
No,
Are you high?
No, I've got to agree with Charmy here. I've watched Van Helsing.
Judge ruled in my favor.
It was great.
God damn it. The big cross in the sky at the end that didn't throw you off. Dude,
the Frankenstein depiction is one of my favorite Frankensteins in all of cinema. They actually did a decent werewolf in that at least standing upright. I'm so tired of every modern werewolf being four-legged, right?
It's just a dire wolf, yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's better than I think you remember.
Okay. I will go back and rewatch it. And if I regret my time, I'm going to be so fucking pissed at you.
I am going to put it on my watch
anyway.
list to rewatch again right now. Van Helsing.
God damn it.
2004 Hugh Jackman.
Jesus Christ.
There we go.
I saw that movie in the theater. It wasn't Pearl Harbor bad, but it was fucking bad. Okay. Sorry. I saw that and I'm like, I can't let this slide. Next one's from Ravager King. Josh, why does LSS hate Rangers?
We don't hate Rangers.
And here we go.
We don't hate Rangers.
I know.
Why do you think we hate Rangers? Rangers are awesome. Rangers are cool. He wants every Ranger. He's a local of mine. He wants every Ranger to be Lexi. And I mean, fully powered Lexi. Well, not every hero can be Lexi, unfortunately. Or fortunately.
Right. Fortunately.
I mean,
it's like me going, why does LSS hate Rune Blades? I haven't had another Briar. You know?
Good things take time, right? You know, we need time
who asked
to
this
enjoy
question?
This was Benny.
I need to go back. Is this one of the people that was just celebrating new?
Oh, maybe.
Because let me tell you, I only just had an assassin go away, and you've had a ranger that held ages ago. They don't hate.
No, he wasn't celebrating the death of new. Okay.
You get a pass.
So now this is from El Dorte, who's our friend in Switzerland. Josh, why does LSS hate brutes? Okay. They don't. That one might actually be legit.
They don't.
I don't think they do. I think that this is a personal opinion and not reflective of LSS. I think that
you're not wearing the polo. You're fine.
Yeah, I'm not wearing the polo. I think that brutes are an interesting space. I think that early on they sort of had this identity of being like, they have random elements and you have to go ahead and manipulate your deck, your hand, the game space to maximize your chances of doing certain things. And I think the way that sort of Fab has evolved means that, you know, you either have to move into the space where the payoffs for these random things have to be incredibly high to be able to match, have the diversity and the strength of the metagame, or you just have to remove the randomness and sort of like vanillarize brute a little bit. So I think it's struggled a little bit with sort of, you know, injecting cards into its identity to make it sort of, you know, where it wants to be. But I think that, you know, it's you know, not a problem. Oh, it's been more of a hangover with, you know, like Rhinar, for example, where intimidating a random card is baked into his hero ability. But I think that we're, you know, getting up to the point where we can start ramping up where brute should be or could be. And, you know, you see that with KO being a little bit more viable and, you know, people talking about KO being a definite option for the top of the meta or like, you know, a pick that you could go ahead with. And I think that's where brute is sort of like where it's going to go, where it's like 6 power matters and, you know, strong cards and less about sort of manipulating game state to improve random odds and more about, you know, brutish things.
control chaos versus just chaos.
Yeah, exactly.
Now he says honest question.
That wasn't an honest question.
I apparently not. Maybe you want to wait with this for another week since there's a lot to talk about with Josh, but fuck that. How would you guys feel about a rotating format? Something like standard on Flesh and Blood, with staples getting more and more expensive and some classes having a big number of stock cards that they play no matter the hero text, assassin, the codex, they say flick knives, kiss of death bonds. It seems the pool for any given class gets bigger and bigger. So why not do a 2-year or standard format? My answer to this question is I don't want standard. I want block constructed. I don't want standard. I just want an additional format for every draftable set that comes out.
You want solo? Is what you want.
I want what?
You want heavy hitters solo is what you want.
Sort of, yeah. I just want so in this case, you would only have your legal card pool for high seas would be the high seas set plus the Gravy Bones Armory deck, because you do the Armory decks along with it. So Call to the Grave would still be legal. But you would not have Back Alley Breakline. You would not have Eye of Ophidia. You would still have Riches of Tropeldani, though. And so I would want, because I think that this game actually, because of the way Limited is designed, it actually plays really well as blocks. And you could even do it. I think we discussed this on a prior episode, but there's only been 185 of them. How the fuck would I remember? But I thought we'd discussed this where if you even separate it out by eras, so the Fab 1.0 era would be WTR through Everfest. Fab 2.0, Uprising through, call it heavy hitters, I guess. If you want to call this 3.0, starting on Mistvale and going, until now, right? You would just section them off that way, and then they're all distinct separate formats. Those are things I've thought about, but I don't think that an actual rotation is good in my mind.
So I don't like the idea of a rotation, and the discourse around the affordability of the game has, once again reached peak levels, largely because we've had a major player explosion. It's a highly competitive time. A lot of people were trying to pick up stuff.
It's national season.
Short timelines because of nationals, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. So here's my knee-jerk reactions. I'm sure I will listen back to this later and be like, man, I was kind of an asshole and not as empathetic as I should be. But here's my initial thoughts. One, we're working on Project Blue. So just hold your damn horses. Commoner is still a format. Project Blue is coming. There's still Blitz available, and there's also UPF and a bunch of other just fan-made formats that exist. And all I keep seeing is hey, the game's not affordable. And all I keep thinking is if all the people who complained about that just played with each other and had their own formats, then it would not be a problem. At some point, you have to be the change you want to see in the world. And if you think, hey, I want to play this lower powered or a different format or whatever, then ask your LGS, hey, can I schedule something? Can I post in the LGS Discord? Can I put something on, the pin board or whatever your LGS does for scheduling, and then try to get people to show up, and maybe you'll be able to enjoy those things, right? I would love to play more formats, but I can't get to a regular game night. So I have I think less sympathy for the people that are complaining that they can't play the game they want to be when they can at least go to a game night. But seriously, it's just one of those, again, I keep going back to Commander started as a fan-made format. It's now the most played format in MTG, just full stop, right? If you love Flesh and Blood as much as everyone else says they do, find a way to play the game. It's just like that. Just find a way to play the game. Do private games on Talishar where you're hey, we're going to organize this thing and I'll send you a link and we'll just, it's honor system or whatever. Don't be a dick, but adhere to whatever the deck building rules are we doing for this. Or, for years people did tabletop simulator games, go back to that, because just like a regular tabletop game, you can simulate whatever you want. And if that's like a wacky format or a custom card even, or who knows what, like, do it. But, to pretend like Commoner and Project Blue aren't options currently, and to, you can say like, well, nobody plays Blitz locally. Okay, well, how many times is it asked about? Like, maybe nobody's playing Blitz because nobody's asked, hey, when's the next time we can play Blitz?
And that's because some asshole brings Blaze and just ruins it for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Project Blue is looking pretty positive too. In that
I think it looks great.
I actually judged the Project Blue down here in Christchurch at iNight Gaming this last weekend as well. So,
and who won?
It was Azalea.
No,
that doesn't fit my narrative because you hate Rangers.
Yeah, I think it was.
No, you hate Rangers.
I'm sure it was Azalea.
LSS hates Rangers. That can't be possible.
I'm pretty sure they made the deck the night before as well.
I love it when all my our guests just come on the show and lie to us. Like,
that's fine.
It's pretty crazy.
I mean, the only Project Blue deck I built is Briar, and it's a ton of fun even without Rosetta Thorn. Like, you still get to do some shit. So
yeah, I think as well.
Her text is still there.
There's still like some time to go as well. Like, for it to develop, and for the I think part of the Project Blue initiative was to sort of like gauge player reaction and sort of like fun test it as well. There's only so much that devs can do sitting in a room testing the format for balance. It really depends on how the format is received for whether or not it's going to become a success. So I think it's been pretty upbeat so far. We've had people asking if they can run it for their armories, to which we say you cannot run it for your armories until it becomes an official format. But like Chana said, you can just run more on-demand events and just run separate Project Blue stuff and be like, hey, like, we're running this funky thing at this LGS. It's for Flesh and Blood. No, it's not your armory, but we've got extra gem packs left over from our armory events that we can, use as prize support for this thing. Like, there's so much opportunity for groups and communities and LGSs to get involved, to shape and, adapt to what the player base wants. It's just a matter of like identifying your opportunities to do so, scheduling in the time and getting the organization there. And then soon you'll just have people clamoring for more.
Yeah. No notes.
I do have a question though, and that is, if you would have a High Seas solo, would it be played with or without Treasure Island?
It says specifically that it's only used in High Seas Limited, so you can't.
But limited has been defined as being limited to a specific set. If we were going to go with solo, it would be defined as limited.
Then we would play with Treasure Island. Let's fucking go. Because you have Scurv legal, you have 4 heroes. Scurv is legal.
Yep.
If you're playing it as Blitz, as young hero rules, and then or if you wanted to play it, you can play it as CC rules also.
I'm curious what it would be like with CC playing Treasure Island.
CC Treasure Island would be fucking crazed. Like, people be like, have stacks of gold tokens to the goddamn ceiling. Like, Charmer's got like 1,000-yard stare just thinking about it. It's like,
I was just thinking about macros in general, and my 1,000-yard stare was like, man, I can't wait for like 5 years in the future when we have so many macros that I can play again some custom wacky format where it's like UPF, but everyone's also allowed to bring one macro that they slap down and just watch the chaos go.
Oh, there's a Sanctuary of Arya over here, and a Treasure Island is on the board, and there's 3 Treasure Islands, and
some weird thing from the pits that allows me to play Earth Brute.
Fuck off. God damn it.
Do you know what format I want to play but haven't had a good opportunity to is like a proper Fab Cube, like a one that's been like properly curated.
I can tell you what, I have played Fab Cube.
Yeah.
And it is fucking awesome. Like, so Jordan Kennedy, original host, he built a Fab Cube that was Bravo, Dorinthia, Katsu, and Viscerai, and heavily curated. And the rules of the cube were simple. There were 8 copies of each hero, or there were 8 tokens for each hero. Whenever a hero won, one copy got signed. That copy got signed. And then as soon as all 8 are signed, the hero's retired from the cube and you bring in the next hero. So I was the first person to win with not Dorinthia. Because Dory was just a fucking monster in that cube. And I won on Bravo because I got past a showtime and I didn't know I was getting past the showtime because Abby to my right is also Bravo. And so she passed me a showtime because she opened a Spinal Crush.
Oh, yeah.
And she took the Spinal and shipped me the showtime. So I just thought open. And the way the cube worked is you draft, and then there was an equipment draft, a separate that was Rochestered. So all the equipment was face up.
Oh, and then you just take turns going around picking up your equipment.
Yep, but it's face up.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I go into the Rochester and I roll for the first pick in Rochester, and I snag the tech plating. And Abby gave me the most fucking brutal look I've ever seen. And she's just like, the fuck is this? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you passed me a cranial crush and a showtime. Like, what else am I supposed to think? And she flips the like Spinal and something like a couple other really good ones. And I'm like, ooh, shit. Well, this next pack's gonna really suck for you. So she took Tunic, and I think I took Crater Fist on the wheel, and so she took Tunic and I believe Skullcap, and then I took Crater Fist on the wheel, and then the next thing I opened is Crippling Crush, and I'm just like, well, I'm an asshole. Here we go. And then it was insane Guardian pack because it was like Crippling Crush into another insane Guardian card. I think it was Choke Slam Red, and then a bunch of just blue block 3s. And then we met in the finals. So it was a Bravo final.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But yeah, Fab Cube is legit great. So if you find people that have taken the time, and anybody that was really interested, Tyler Loose Leaf T does like Fab Cube stuff. And so hit him up. 1, great dude. 2, is the one that builds a bunch of the stuff that for the tools that you use on a regular basis. If you didn't know, he is a database wizard. And also has the most games of Fab played on Board Game Geek because he tracks every single game that he plays on Talishar through Board Game Geek. And there's a lot of people pissed at him about that. And then also he does some Fab Cube stuff that's really, really cool. So if you are into that type of thing, hit him up and you will not be disappointed.
Yeah. But
Fab Cube is great. Confirm great. Should I bring one to Philly? Should I make one and bring it to Philly?
Go on. Go on.
So that we'll
pick a night. We'll draft it out.
And we'll cube.
Yeah.
We'll cube it up. We'll get 8 and cube it up.
Lock it in.
All right, locking it in. I guess I'm building a cube now. Next one is from Rogue.noob. Why did LSS kill the wizard class identity to make them worse Rune Blade with bad equipment? What
god, dude, people just hate just like random classes.
People love to complain. So in this case, a wizard literally just won Worlds. Or not Worlds, won the US Nats, sorry. And it's like, but my class identity, because they played attacks. Were they bitching when Icelander won US or won Worlds with Wounded Bull or whatever in their deck, or where was the outrage then? Like I don't know. This is not this.
Yeah.
They do have worse equipment than Rune Blades. I will agree with that part.
I don't think that's worse equipment than Rune Blades, personally. They have Storm Striders. But
Rune Blade has Grasp of the Arc now.
Yeah, you have to
dealt
arcane damage. You can just be on your opponent's turn and you just be like, cool, 1 resource from Tunic and boom.
Listen, I think they have worse equipment than Runeblades, but I only say that because Runeblades have arguably the best equipment suite in the entire game.
I will not.
Second best.
I will not.
Second best.
I will not.
I said arguably.
I will not argue that they have a bad equipment set. Runeblades do have a good equipment set. I would just say that they're, side to what Wizard can do on their turns and that sort of thing.
Warrior clearly has the best. Yeah, that's true. Warrior clearly has the best equipment suite. Like full stop.
No. Absolutely not. Mechanologist has the best equipment suite because they can upgrade their equipment and then Singularity into the singular best equipment in the game.
Which you then steal and attack them with.
You can't steal the Necropotent.
I think isn't there something that now allows you to, though?
No, it's an equipment.
No, you can steal the Nitro Mechanoid, but you can't steal
the Necropotent.
The Mechanoid is an equipment item which you can steal. The Necropotent is just an equipment. So the Necropotent you can't steal.
Instead, you just kill him.
Yeah, you can banish him with what is it? Wheelhouse kick or something like that?
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's one of the kicks that actually banishes the Necropotent.
Yeah.
So yes, you can just banish it, which is pretty funny.
Cyclone Roundhouse kick.
Cyclone Roundhouse.
But in answer to the question, though, I think that Wizard class identity is. I mean, it is distinct from Runeblade, right? Like it's so much. It leans so much more into the arcane damage and the the results of like pumping that arcane damage beyond 1, 2, or 3 that you would typically like. Runeblade is all very much 1 arcane damage and then occasionally 2 or 3 or amp it up to like whatever with Millennium Tree. But like Wizard is like, I'm dealing you real arcane damage with real consequences if you don't have AB. And being able to play on your opponent's turns and being able to play essentially a slightly different game of Fab to what you're playing with, like even Verdance, right? Like Verdance is playing this life gain into arcane damage game. Auxilio is playing this see how many instants I can cycle in a turn game that you're not playing.
And try to nuke you. Yeah, and try to nuke you.
They are tangibly related to the game of Fab, but they're doing it in an alternative way. And I think that's all part of the Wizard identity. Whereas Runeblade is just Value Town, baby. Like it's all very much like...
It is definitely Value Town. Holy shit.
Hybrid damage, big numbers, like go again, all that stuff. All that good stuff.
Sending stacks. Yeah.
I feel like a wizard being mad that Runeblades deal arcane damage is like... a warrior being mad that Runeblades deal physical damage.
That Runeblades attack with a weapon.
Which we're not. Yeah. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, we're more pissy about their arcane damage most of the time.
I'm a little bit mad, though, because I wanted to run Florian before so I could run stack Florian, like run the whole OTK.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because I have like almost 80 foil Crucible rune chants that I used for Vicerai OTK. And I never really got the chance to pull that out with Florian. Or at least it's a lot harder now to do it with Florian. So.
Right. But you can just still do it with Vicerai and LL and just
true.
Cook them.
That's true. I just have to wait for an LL opportunity to come up locally and I'll be able to do it. It's just great because like having the stack of rune chants instead of using the die is like you put them out in piles of 10 or 20 and then you have the 80 or whatever rune chants and you're like,
we call that big dicking, Josh. You are big dicking your rune chants.
Yeah. It doesn't quite get to the 6 inches on the table. It's probably like the
big is relevant.
Not that I'm measuring.
Not that we're measuring. But next one is from Ravenger King. He's back. This is actually a real question, though. Will mastery packs have an avenue for dual classes? Now, I think that's interesting.
Yeah, that is quite interesting. So from what I understand for mastery pack, at least, it's the identity or the core identity of it is like, hey, like there's this identity of a class. It has all the good stuff in it for this class, some reprints, some new stuff. If you want to get into this class, this is the pack for you. If you want to do crack, shuffle, play with this, it's the set for you. There's like different ways you can explore that. I think there's a possible avenue for dual classes. I think that it would be very limited though. Because like you have to consider that it does reduce your crack shuffle play capacity, at least in a very technically correct sense, which is what I deal with. Unless, of course, you had a dual class like mech pirate or necromancer pirate or whatever. Yeah, that's a bit tough. I would say there's a very real possibility that it could happen, but I don't foresee that would be how it would be explored in the future. I think there's just so many things you can explore with single class mastery packs for the time being that dual classes probably wouldn't come until we can establish like what that looks like for a mastery pack. Yeah.
Fair enough. Next one's from Zaris, and this is a good one. You guys were talking about shit horror movies that you loved last week, but what about shitty action movies? This is my fucking wheelhouse. Unironically, my favorite actor is Arnold, and Running Man is one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. It's a good choice. Strong choice. Give me some hot takes on shitty action movies. Good shout out for the Dolph Lundgren He-Man movie. Yeah, it's trash. Bonus points if you actually know the movie Equalizer 2000. My good friend. Of course I know the movie, The Equalizer 2000. That's early Robert Patrick, bud. Like, that's pre-T-1000. Like, we're talking real shit, though. Like, that movie can't be more than 24% on Rotten Tomatoes. There's no way. Like, Charmer, give me a Google.
Working on it.
Because that movie is fucking trash. They put it on Blu-ray. I know they put it on Blu-ray.
So,
by the way,
I don't know if I can add much to this conversation because I think I only got really shown good action movies when my dad was teaching me the movie genre with. I don't know what comes to mind. Is like Demolition Man. Is that a bad action movie? I thought that.
Wait. Are they talking about?
It's a trash action movie.
What is it? I thought it was good.
Which Equalizer were they talking about?
Equalizer 2000 from like 1986, 87.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Like,
just making sure.
It's either 80, it's gonna be 86, 87.
No, like official like review score, but it has an 18% on the popcorn meter.
Oof. That's so bad. All right, then.
I was gonna say they can't be talking about the Denzel ones because those ones are actually fun.
Those are actually like playable.
Yeah.
Yeah, Demolition Man is not trash, but it is definitely that still that same action flick vibe of plot is very secondary to everything else going on in this movie.
Yeah.
So like if you want to scale it, the best action movie of all time is Die Hard. We just know that for a fact, right? So your scale starts at Die Hard. And then you kind of can nest things from there. We're trying to get to the dredge. We're getting past the stuff that's just bad. So Waterworld. And we're trying to nuclear Gandhi. So we're trying to go so far past bad that we loop back to good. There's Cracker Jack. That one was awful. There's Snakes on a Plane actually loops pretty well.
Oh,
yeah, that one
plane is a banger. Like
that might loop pretty well. I think my problem is many of the ones that like I would say are bad action movies that I enjoy. I don't necessarily know that I would call them bad. I just think other people think they're bad. If that makes sense, like. Or that they've just never seen them. Like the other day I was telling somebody, I made a joke about Tango and Cash and they were like, what's Tango and Cash? And I was like, are you kidding me?
No, Tango and Cash is in that same nesting before you get to bad. Right. Like it's still there. Like, so that's like Lethal Weapon, RoboCop, Tango and Cash. We're removing war movies from the discussion.
Yeah, I don't think it can be like straight.
And I think like you can mix some sci-fi, like unless the guy like The Guyver is definitely an action movie.
I don't know because like there are some that are I guess technically war movies, but I would still be fine putting them in that genre because I think of like Rambo, Commando, like
Commando, yes. Rambo, no.
Yeah.
So I Commando, yes. Predator, yes.
Sure. Love Predator though.
Yeah.
Alien 2, yes.
Yeah, Aliens is an
But
action movie.
Aliens, yes. Alien, no.
No, that's a horror movie.
That's hard sci-fi horror. Same thing with Terminator. Terminator, no. Terminator 2, yes. Terminator 3 is in the shit tank, and did not loop. It is just down there.
Here's
Highlander is in that good middle again.
No, I think that one's pretty bad. Like
Highlander 1 is not.
Highlander 1 is still
gas.
pretty bad. Dude. Stop for a minute. The guy who's supposed to be Scottish isn't Scottish, and then the guy who actually is Scottish is supposed to be a Spaniard who speaks with a Scottish accent. Like, I'm sorry,
Correct.
I love Highlander, but it's not a good movie. Like, that's it loops back. That's Snakes on a Plane looping back. I'm sorry, man. Like, I love it too, but it's bad.
I just recently saw a movie on a plane, The Beekeeper with Jason Statham. So like
that one's newer. I haven't seen that
2004, but like because we've gone past, like I feel like there was a point in time where like, you know, we have all these old, well, you know, retiring movie actors and whatnot, and the demographic for a lot of like action movies and whatnot is like, I want somebody who is retired to get pissed off by somebody who's young and who just goes in and wrecks everything. Because that is essentially like the plot of The Beekeeper. It's like this ex-CIA official like person who's like part of like the secret underground like kill team or whatnot. He acts as a beekeeper on a farm, and the person who like he brings sandwiches every day, like she dies or like she gets scammed because of like some new age tech thing, and then he goes on a rampage to go kill them all. And like it was like I watched it.
Okay, I'm in.
Yeah, I watched it and I was just like, this is so like, it's so predictable. It's so generic. I love it. Like, it's so ridiculous.
The one that strikes me is the movie is called Nobody, and it's more recent. It stars Bob Odenkirk as the action star.
It has a sequel coming, by the way.
Oh my God! Please say yes. Say less.
Yes,
like let's go.
Yeah. It has a sequel, and if you haven't seen the
His
trailer, I'm already
little girl's Hello Kitty watch gets taken, and that is the impetus of shit going fucking south. And my God, that movie is just perfect.
Yeah, it's because it follows like there's so many movies with that same plot line now. Like The Equalizer is another one that is like that, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. John Wick is very similar, coming out of retirement because they killed his dog. Although John Wick is like a whole different thing. Yeah, Gun Fu is I love Gun Fu. Man.
It is Gun Fu is great, but like you also have to realize that like we also have to remove like the martial arts movies from this. So like Bloodsport doesn't count in these. Neither does
Matrix. Would you not consider Matrix as an action movie in this? Like Matrix 1, really good.
So yeah,
Matrix 2.
The Matrix kind of falls into the Starship Troopers paradigm of there's other shit in here that kind of pushes it into different directions. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
But God, there's some real trash ones though.
All right, I'll go with trying to remember ones that I loved from my youth. Right when I was. I love it when you're young and you just like don't know what having taste is, so you just like everything that your parents let you watch. So
like American Ninja,
oh my God.
I watched the shit out of American Ninja.
So
that's so true.
One that jumps out to me is Passenger 57.
Oh yeah. Passenger 57 though is in that middle category. It's not shit. It's close to shit, but it's not shit. I want to count American Ninja as bad action movie. But it's also a war-ish movie because he's a soldier, and then also a kung fu movie.
There's one that I fucking loved as a kid. Universal Soldier, man.
Oh yeah. Oh, beautiful.
Oh wait, no, hold on.
Universal Soldier's gas.
Ninja Assassin.
I
love that too.
That one's
2009.
fantastic. 20. Yeah.
So, fun fact. The actress that plays his little sister in the flashbacks of Ninja Assassin is the main supporting actress in the TV show Shogun that I thought was outstanding.
I haven't gone to watch Shogun yet.
Yeah.
Shogun's one of my favorite novels of all time.
This show is great. Show is absolutely great.
I'm so nervous. But
I think you'll like it.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about Shogun. It's on my watch list, but it's on my backlog.
Sit down and watch list.
It's one of those things where I have a backlog, and it's okay, I'm not going to just watch this while I'm doing other things. I'm not going to half-heartedly watch it. I have a list of movies and TV shows where it's okay, if I'm going to watch this, I'm going to sit down when I don't have anything else to do, when I don't have anything else I need to think about, and actually watch this properly. If you watch anime, Frieren was one of those things. It's so highly acclaimed anime, everyone's raving about it, says it's really in-depth and everything. It's okay, this is one of the animes that I'll watch. Not in my spare time, not in my frivolous time or whatever. I'm gonna sit down and watch this shit. So Shogun has made that list, and it's been on that list for a while because I know that it's a fucking venture.
I'm gonna put time into that one. But there's because I have a list of things that I rewatch every year, but they're mostly I just rewatch in background. Because I've already seen it, right?
All right. So it's technically a Christmas movie, but then again, so is Die Hard. And this is not bad. This is just straight good. But if you're talking about movies that I rewatch every year, Violent Night is fantastic.
Violent Night has to be the answer here.
Yeah.
Because Violent Night is Die Hard plus Home Alone.
But as a Christmas movie with Santa Claus being a murderous Viking.
Yeah,
it is beautiful, Josh. If you've never seen it, I do watch it every year. Watching it, and it's her favorite Christmas movie.
It's only been, I think it's 3 years old now. I watch it. Yeah. I've watched it every single year. Yep.
Oh my God. Okay.
At least once, most of the time, twice.
Okay. No, I literally just Googled Violent Night, and I was flash with essentially this grizzled Santa staring directly into my soul while he's got a candy cane in his mouth, which is lit up like a cigarette, it appears.
He does murder somebody with that candy cane. And then that one's perfect. There's no ill is ever spoken about Violent Night in my presence.
Nope.
It's so well done. And there are just so many pieces to that movie. Yeah, Santa Claus is a berserker Viking trying to atone for the sins of his previous life by giving children presents. It's
all right. I'm amazing. I'll watch it tonight. I'll put it on my watch list for tonight. I've got something to fill in.
It's so good. I need reported immediately. Okay. Your reaction.
Yeah, you will. You will. You get it in our chat. It's all good.
All right. Okay. I'm going to keep going on questions now because we could do this literally for an hour. Without pause. So we'll save that for a different show.
Yep.
Next question is from Sofsky. I got the news that you two are casting German Gnats. Okay. We are casting German Gnats. So that is the news that Charmer and I are the broadcast crew for the Flesh and Blood German Nationals, being run by White Rabbit Community Game Stores. So we had Heiner on a few weeks ago when we got done with the episode, and we were chatting when things were uploading. He had mentioned that, he'd like us to potentially cast those if we were available, and then some discussions, and it's all a go now. So we will be doing that next weekend. It's going to be fun as fuck for us to be going at 2 and 3 in the morning, because that's when they start in Germany, is 2 a.m. for me. But I have coffee. I'll make it work. Not worried about it at all. It'll be worth it. 100%.
It'll all be part of the act.
That's right. Well, it's always part of the act. How excited are you for this gig? Extremely. I know that specifically for Darick, he has, not to put words in your mouth, but you said this to me, that he has definitely wanted to get more Flesh and Blood work in. One, because he loves the game and would like to do more casting for it. And two, just because it's a fun game to talk about. And it's, obviously we do it at least nominally every week for somewhere between an hour and 3 hours, depending on who's on the show. Josh, looking at you. And And honestly, we haven't stopped at all. So I think doing German Nats, especially with, you mentioned this here, casting the first bigger event after new LLs. So we get a fresh look at this. Guardian is back on the menu, I'm pretty sure. We will be seeing some Victors. We'll be seeing some of those other decks that operate on the blue heavy curve. That can shine again and do some crazy shit. So I'm really looking forward to this. I think that we'll get some insanely good matches. We know that the German Fab players are incredible, and I'm sure we're going to see something that's a little off kilter too, that just kind of takes our breath away. I still expect to see a lot of Gravy Bones because deck good. But we also know Verdance will be around because again, deck good. But I think that honestly, Azalea is probably one of those. If Guardian's going to show back up, Azalea's licking her chops. Like, feed them to me. I want to kill them. Oh yeah. I
never really had a problem with Azaleas.
That's because you play nothing but pummels.
Yeah, I guess.
Like, all you do is pummel and CNC and pummel and CNC. In
the current meta, at least, so I don't play a ton of Victor, right? But like all the many games I've played on Bravo and just thinking about playstyle stuff in the current meta, decks that I would not want to see would be Prism. It's always Prism. Let's start there.
It's always Prism.
I actually think Gravy Bones still will give Guardians trouble
because of all the allies. And
you just don't have, even if you do bring in some of the old Go Again tech, right? Like you've got the Rouses, you've got the Zealous, whatever it is. There's even some new tools I think that you could get away with as well. It's still not super efficient. It still makes your turns clunky at best. So, and you can't, in my opinion, I don't think that you can just straight up ignore them, because even as something as simple as like if a Humperdinck lands and you're making your opponent discard cards or whatever, as long as they just keep the pitch cards, they still have a really effective turn, right? So I think I would be worried about Gravy Bones. I would be worried about Prism. And then I still think that if I'm being entirely honest, I would be worried about something that is just really good with 2-card hands, right? So if Kasai's start to rise in popularity,
I want all the Guardians.
Right.
Give them to
anything
me.
Where, again, we haven't seen her as much because of the other Assassins' popularity, but like a good mid-range Uzuri where it's like I have 2D reacts and, a dominated 6 every turn or whatever. Stuff like that. It's rough for Guardian because almost all of your game plan is either I block really efficiently or I send damage that has, for lack of a better term, evasion, right? It's the term from Magic where like it's damage that's hard for your opponent to prevent, right? Creatures with flying, creatures with shadow, etc. They have evasion. Yeah. So in Flesh and Blood, cards with evasion are things with dominate, things with overpower, whatever. So for Guardian, you're just like, all right, I'm going to send a big attack with some evasion and hope that it's got a relevant on hit that will slow my opponent down. The problem is any classes that can still do well with like a 2-card hand because of you making them discard, or can still do well with just one attack if you hit with a Spinal, they can give you trouble as well. So I guess another hero that I would be potentially worried about would be like KO, actually. I think KO is in a good position to potentially bounce back, if I'm being honest.
Judge, I have a question.
Yes.
How does Trounce work with allies?
That is a good question. Let me look up the wording for Trounce.
I'm pretty sure it works the way I think it does, and Whaler is really good into Victor.
So if you defend... Oh, well, you can't defend with it. Because if you... hold on. If you attacking hero... No, there is no attacking hero. So even if you attack with Whaler, there is no attacking hero. So you do not clash with them.
Well, no, it's more of a... So, like, let's say they send an attack that's not an ally. A CNC,
okay, yep.
Right?
Then there is an attacking
hero. And they block
hero.
with Trounce.
Yep.
And they block with Trounce. And off the top, you reveal a Golden Sun, and they reveal a Whaler Humperdinck.
Yep.
Who won the clash?
The person with the Whaler.
Great.
Because it doesn't.
Love it.
It's not specifically about attack action cards. It is about comparing the power of the card.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So that's what I was saying. I think Gravy Bones is a bad one. I think Prism's a bad one. And then I would go with any of those ones that have really good 2-card hands. So like KO Kasai, maybe Uzuri. So I still think that they have the ability to be competitive. I think that we will see more Guardians on the menu, but those would be the heroes I would be a bit more concerned about. I will say it does also kind of depend on the Guardian. I think Jarl, depending on the build, has the potential to be a little bit better into some of those heroes.
Jarl has the ability to really fuck up Gravy's game plan.
Yes. That was the one specifically I was thinking of.
That, because once you start taxing with Frostbites and stuff like that with their resources even more, it really makes their game plan awkward. So, and especially Channel Lake Frigid basically is just a go fuck yourself to that deck. So yeah, I could see that with Guardians being, right there on the menu. So, all right. I mean, I get it. Ready for the next one?
Yep.
This is from Greg. Joshua, rapid fire, sweets related questions. Are you ready?
Let's go.
Dark or milk chocolate?
Milk.
Salted or traditional caramel?
Traditional.
Ooh. Peanuts or toffee?
Toffee.
You're off the board. Creamy or crunchy peanut butter? You can redeem yourself here. Creamy or crunchy peanut butter?
Crunchy.
That's my guy. Okay, you're back.
Okay.
Well, we lost Charmer.
Look, here's the thing, right? I have a massive sweet tooth. My love for sweets and sweet things override like everything else. So dark or milk chocolate, it's got to be milk chocolate because I can't.
It's sweeter.
Yeah, it's sweeter. Like I can't have the bitterness outweigh it. Don't get me wrong. I like dark chocolate, but presented with the option, I'll go with milk chocolate. Salted or traditional caramel. I appreciate salted caramel. I think that the salt does add an element to it, but traditional caramel is sweeter, so I would go with traditional caramel.
Yeah, and toffee is just naturally sweet, and peanuts aren't sweet.
Yeah, of course.
That's easy.
And then creamy or... who eats creamy peanut butter?
This dumb bitch in the middle of us, that's who. I love crunchy peanut butter.
Yeah, I think look, if you're gonna have to have peanut butter, and I say you have to have peanut butter, it's not my favorite topping or however you eat it. It's nice to have that texture in addition to the element of it being peanut butter.
100%.
Yeah,
that just makes sense. Charmer, who? So if I wanted
crunchy peanut butter, I would just eat the raw peanuts. Like if I want the peanut butter, just give me the peanut butter. Like I like peanuts and I like peanut butter and I don't necessarily need them together.
I just hate texture because I'm a fucking savage. That's what you're saying.
Listen, okay? Some of us are on the spectrum and certain sensory things are bad for us, okay?
Okay, I have to clarify something as well.
Sure.
Peanut butter in chocolate, like Reese's Pieces and whatnot, it's very gritty. Is all American peanut butter like that?
No. That's very specifically a candy peanut butter that has a very different texture because of the way they have to do the packaging for the confectionery
process
stuff.
And preserve.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, a good, smooth, natural peanut butter is phenomenal, and I stand by that. When you have to stir.
Yeah, because it separates.
No, not those ones. Like a good smooth one. That's so good you don't you can still stir it, but you don't have to stir it. Like melt in your mouth, grate on toast.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that because I thought you guys were spreading that crap on your toast, and I was like, man, you Americans have it rough. Like even your smooth peanut butter tastes like sandpaper. Like
no,
okay,
that is shit.
That's good.
Like we have some decently good peanut butters. Honestly, I have been known to just make my own as well, so it's not that hard to do. Because I don't like how preserved and artificially sugary a lot of things are in America because they only use high fructose corn syrup for literally everything. And I like to dodge that if I can. Now, they do make organic peanut butters, which are usually will separate in the jar. You just stir them and then it's fine. But I discovered with like a food processor and not much time, you can just make peanut butter. So I just make peanut butter sometimes.
You know, since you are a heathen that likes your peanut butter crunchy, you can make it anytime you want if you just put raw peanuts on whatever you're eating.
That's not a butter. What the fuck?
You make the butter while you're eating
point.
it, I think is what he's implying.
Right, but I'm not going to regurgitate it to then spread it on something.
You're just eating raw peanut butter, and then when you masticate, it becomes whatever it is that you enjoy.
Called
I guess.
Mother bird peanut butter, right?
Yeah,
Look,
well,
I don't mind texture with my peanut butter. I just like it to be a different texture than the peanuts, because if I was in the mood for that, I would go do that. So like if I want a sandwich that's got peanut butter on it, but also has texture, my go-to is peanut butter and jelly with Ruffles potato chips, because then I get that sweet and the salty and the crunch. It's phenomenal.
Okay,
it's good stuff.
Now,
that is a trailer park sandwich.
okay, now I will have
good news. I grew up in a trailer park, Logan.
I know.
I have to say, okay, when I was in primary school, my parents were like, you got to go make your own lunch now. You're responsible enough to do this. My go-to sandwich, so you have jelly, which is basically the equivalent of our jam, essentially.
Yeah, jam, and we have jams as well, but yes.
So my go-to sandwich was peanut butter, jam, or your jelly, honey, and Marmite.
Okay, that's disgusting. I was good until the Marmite.
I used to call it the super delicious sandwich. I don't know if it still stands up, but I distinctly remember it being a lot better than you thought it might be. So you've reminded me of that. I'm going to have to go back and try that now.
I hear the word Marmite, and I feel like I would call an exterminator for that.
Have you had Marmite? Have you had it?
No.
I
grew up in a trailer park. We just established this.
But you're a worldly man now. You're traveled. You're cultured.
Yeah, not to where I want.
Marmite is basically spreading beer on bread.
So
I mean, that's largely it. Yeah, it's bread on bread.
It's a yeasty kind of savory spread.
Right.
We have Sanitarium Marmite down here in New Zealand. That's like our go-to. That's like our New Zealand thing. Vegemite is the Australian one.
Disgusting.
Vegemite's gross.
I didn't realize that.
It's fucking horrible.
I didn't realize that was what I've had Vegemite.
Okay. Vegemite's very similar in terms of taste, but it's worse because it's Australian.
Yeah, I had family that moved to Australia. My cousin Troy was an actor and a vocal coach and a bunch of stuff, and he worked on the sci-fi show on Fox Terra Nova for a bit as a vocal coach teaching American accents. So he moved out there with his family and then just stayed there until he passed. So
yeah,
nice.
But I remember when I was a kid, because I just had to learn to cook from a young age, and I started becoming like a fucking mad scientist with some shit. Well, I figured out that grilled cheeses are great, but they were missing hot dog. And so what I would do is I would take the grilled cheese and start making half of it, right? So butter the bread, put it on the pan, put a slice of cheese, wait for the slice of cheese to melt a bit, and then I would take a cooked hot dog and slap it in the middle of the cheese, and then take the edges of the bread and put them together and put a toothpick through it. And then eat it as that. So the grilled cheese became the bun. And this is why I'm fat.
That actually sounds pretty good, to be honest.
It's delicious as shit. Like, honestly, it's fucking gas.
So, like,
I haven't done that in a while either. That sounds really good.
One of my go-to snacks here is cheese and Marmite toasty, which is essentially a grilled cheese, but you put you put some Marmite on it as well. And it's that same similar thing. Like, you've got like that savory taste, you've got that cheesy taste, and because it's like a melt, essentially, like it's just uniformly delicious. But yeah.
Yeah, I love a good glizzy because, I mean, you get that hot dog in there and you have everything you'd ever wanted.
What type of cheese do you use for grilled cheeses in the US?
I mean, most people just use American cheese, which is just partially hydrogenated cheese product. It's not real.
It's like a cheese composite.
Craft rubber.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Anymore, I tend to use, since I'm an adult, I will use Gruyere a lot, along with maybe, some provolone or baby Swiss. And there are certain cheddars that are actually very good and meltable still. But and I've done Goudas that are good. It's really weird because smoked Gouda, I just want to eat it raw. I don't want to cook anything with it. So I kind of have to use a base Gouda whenever I'm doing anything melty. But the Gruyere is really the glue for all of that. It's just, and so that way you just have that full flavor still. You have that kind of funk to it. But if I'm doing something with the hot dog in it or whatever, I'll just use a pretty mild cheddar, most likely, because it melts a little easier.
Yeah, fair enough.
But this was grilled cheese making with Logan. Tune in next week while I talk about making chili. I don't fucking know. I also make a lot of chili. God, I'm gonna make a pesto tomorrow. I haven't done that in a while. So a good pesto is akin to God. Last question from Sephiroth. Josh, why did they have to make Burn Bear Null Pitch?
Because it's in the name.
Bear.
It's bear. Yep.
It's bear.
It's been burnt barren. Therefore, there is no pitch.
Yeah, that seems self-explanatory to me. Also, you have a 3-cost, 6 arcane damage, 3-block spell.
What are you complaining about? You've got everything that you need it for.
This is the type of thing where, oh, you handed me this $100 bill, but you folded it like an asshole.
Look, even if it had red pitch, nobody would pitch it. What are you complaining about?
Nobody's gonna fucking pitch it. Yeah, it goes upstairs or it kills a whaler, whatever. Yeah, I think that's all I got. It's only been 2.5 hours, so it's not the longest.
Yeah, I mean, if we kept talking about movies and food, we could probably go over. I mean, I could just start reading out the comprehensive rules if you guys wanted to make this.
I don't want that.
It would help some of our listeners to memorize it.
It would. It really, well and truly would.
When we get up to another super complicated set like the Hunted, then we'll settle in for a proper. See if we can get a record breaker there. But
a 3.5er.
Yeah, but let's not just do long for the sake of long. Let's fill it out naturally.
We'll leave that for pornography. But you see what I did there? It had two. You know what? I'm just not gonna explain it. But let's just thank some patrons and then we'll get out of here. We're going to thank our associate producers. We have Andy, Sindra, Ejor, Jacob, Quiet Goat, Salty Sea Cat Dog, Sofsky, and Zaris. For our executive producer on Up, we have Blaze Storm, value member of the Patreon, Diana, Makaya, Paxanus, Sergeant Isbjorn, Vintox, Delusian Data Analyst, and Philip. For the Chamber of Charcoal, Brandon, we need to get you scheduled. I'm thinking either next week or the week after. Hit me up with your availability. Matt, thank you for being the first. You're the first in our hearts. And you have exceeded the loop, I guess. So if you want to come back on, you can.
Double episode?
It's officially become an action movie so bad it looped back.
It looped back. You're more than welcome back on. Same thing with the Jackal. Sir, if you haven't received it yet, by the time this comes out, your package is in the mail. And then Polish guy Rich will be hanging out in the land at some point in time in September as I watch my Green Bay Packers kick the holy shit out of his Cleveland Browns. That'll be a fun weekend with the Polish one. If you are interested in becoming a member of our Patreon, go to patreon.com/fleshandpod. Link is in the show notes. There are 6 tiers, I think, to choose from. If you take any paid tier, you get a FAP After Dark, which is just our show where we just talk, we say whatever we want. So that will be coming. The next one is probably either next. I'm gonna guess not next week, but the week after. Mainly because, and I guess I can just talk about this now that we have this all set up. I will be doing another show. Hooray! Woo! This one is we'll get more details out there soon, but I'll be doing this with Elaine Hammondtree and that is called On the Topic Of, and it'll be on the topic of whatever the fuck we feel like. So it is not Fab related necessarily, but it will probably be Fab related at points in time, because that's how we know each other. And but we already kind of got everything ironed out for it for the most part, and we'll be actually recording our first episode next week. So next week.
I heard it was a show where you are forced to talk about how Shedeur Sanders is going to lead the Browns against the Packers to a victory.
Huh. That's interesting.
You Americans and your sports.
Yeah, I know.
Trust me, everything I just said is not sports. It's fantasy.
It's fantasy. Yeah.
You and your fantasy sports.
No, I mean just straight fantasy. Like what I said is one of those things that's not happening.
Nope. It's just a new project, and so it'll be a lot of fun. The premise is, without going into too much detail, is one of us every week will pick a topic, and that person becomes the host and moderator. The other two have at minimum 24 hours to research anything they need on the topic, and then we go. So Az has picked the first topic, and so Elaine and I are the ones in the hot seat. So it should be fun. But it's going to be at times silly as shit. It's going to be at times a little bit more serious. But it'll be fun because they're two of my favorite people to spend time around. And anytime that we are having discussions, they actually are just a ton of fun. Even when we were on like a brief call, but just earlier this week, Az just started recording it because Elaine and I were getting into a fight about fonts. Because she said something about Comic Sans making a comeback, and I became irate.
Yeah, you can't come back if you never left. It's just that good.
Yeah.
What the fuck is wrong with you? God damn it. Ugh. If you need to contact the show to bitch about Charmer's fucking font choices,
this is why I wasn't invited to do that show.
You can send us an email at fleshandpod@gmail.com. That link's in the show notes. You can find us on BlueSky. Just search Flesh and Pod. If you wanted, but the best thing to do is just join our Discord. Links in the show notes. Josh is in there. So sometimes he just fires away.
Yep. Sometimes I post in there. Sometimes.
Yeah, it's rare, but it happens. But yeah, links in the show notes. It's free. You don't have to pay anything. You don't have to be a member of anything. You just come hang out. There's a lot of topics and a lot of channels and a lot of shit going on. So please come join us. It's a lot of fun. Josh, where can they find you?
So you can find me on BlueSky, jjscott.nz. Be warned, I keep it pretty real on there.
Yes, you do.
Otherwise, if you are interested in being part of the Flesh and Blood Judge program, you can head to judges.fabtcg.com, or you can go to our new sort of like landing page on the fabtcg.com /judges, and that'll give you a guide on, what does it mean to be a judge, how to become a judge, getting involved. You can also join our Discord, Judges of Wraith, where we talk about related topics, we discuss rules, and if you become a certified judge, you can get access to the hidden channels, and there's lots of fun that goes on in there too.
The last BlueSky skeet from Josh Scott was much harder to chop veggies with a blunt knife.
Yep. And, I speak truth. What can I say?
You do. That's no. It's also more dangerous. Dull knives are more dangerous than sharp knives.
Yeah, they try to keep me down, but I keep coming back.
They keep coming back. Darick, where can they find you? You also have a new project, so.
Yeah, I mean, I have a bunch of new projects. Most importantly is probably my gangster rap album.
Oh, did you finally get that to drop?
Well, I'm still working out the distribution. I'm also doing a show to talk about Riftbound, the card game coming out from Riot. It should come as no surprise because I covered Legends of Runeterra, and many of the crew that I covered that game with, we're all just getting together to cover Riftbound. I would also honestly just kind of encourage you to follow some of those folks, Casanova in particular, because he's just a really good Flesh and Blood player as well. And I believe he is going to be interviewing Majin at some point here in the near future and doing some other fun stuff. So it's less about me and more about them, but you can find me in the Flesh and Pod Discord, usually saying something to upset Logan, but sometimes I also post fun stuff and or links to Reddit where I'm proving to be correct like 2 months after a hot take.
Oh, you know what? Yeah. Sometimes you are. I got to give that one to you.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, whatever. All right. Well, I guess that's our show for this week. 2 hours and 40 minutes worth. Yeah, Greg will have fun editing this shit. So I guess join us next week for episode 186, where we discuss bowtie pasta versus penne. Boys?
I mean, I thought we were discussing it next week.
Well, I just want the surface level right now.
Oh, bow tie.
Yeah, bow tie too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's Farfalla. Yeah, I mean, okay, great. We don't have to discuss this. I just thought that you were going to be like, no, that texture's too much for me because I'm Darick Oswald. But
that one is more so about respect. Do you respect formal wear? Okay.
Yeah,
bow tie is good enough for James Bond. It's good enough for me.
Who wears penne? Honestly, who the fuck would dare wear penne after Labor Day?
Some people do wear spaghetti, though. It is a Texas tie after all.
Yeah, fucking bolo ties are bullshit. All right. That's our show for this week, everybody. Thanks for listening and watching and putting up with the nonsense. And we'll talk at you next week. Bye.